Welcome to the Hot Rod Hangout Podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And tonight we get to sit down with Mr. Shawn Fowler with Modified Auto Sound. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, my friend?
Oh, just living a dream. So what originally got you into automotive?
Well, like a lot of kids, everybody has their interest early on, and some guys are sports guys, some guys are hunting guys. I was a car guy from the start. So from the time I could play with a toy, I was playing with Hot Wheels. And then when I got a little older, I got into the whole model building thing. And model building was a lot of fun because that was kind of like the first opportunity you got to customize an automobile. And I just remember like slamming everything to the ground and chopping and narrowing everything and putting superchargers on everything. I mean, it was just the way I never built a model kit the way they gave you the instructions. I always did custom colors and did custom suspension work, and then later on I got a little bit more fancy when I learned how to cut doors and trunks open and really have fun with building models as a little kid. And then then I did some RC car racing a little bit when I started getting into my younger teens, and that was fun. Same thing. It was a matter of, building and souping up cars and taking them to the next level. But there was like a turning point. And in the beginning, I was kind of into the same thing that everybody else is. You've got the posters of the Lamborghinis or you've got the Mustangs and the muscle cars, and you're a kid that's kind of, and I kind of was into the Mustangs and stuff like that when I was a kid. That was short-lived. I remember it like it was yesterday. So to give you a little bit of a date, I'm 47 years old. I just turned 47 this July. Okay. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in a time where the mini trucking scene was fresh. And so all of my memories is when traditional lowriding was so killer. I mean, we were talking, swivel seats and crushed velvet interiors and, mini bars and the cool original old school lowrider magazines that you would read. Yeah. I was intrigued, but I hadn't had the hook yet. And I remember it was my freshman year of high school. I was in the school parking lot. We had an open campus lunch, and I remember I was coming back. I either coming back from lunch or going to lunch, and I remember seeing this like Mazda B2000 pickup truck. The common Mazda B series that's like the go-to for custom guys, and this thing was like almost pink. It was like a peach color, and I'd never seen anything like this. Thing was hammered and big monster notch, and I mean, I'd never seen anything like it, like in person. Of course you see things in magazines and such like that, but this thing goes cruising by the school, and I was just enamored. I was completely drawn in to the scene, and I followed that guy down to the gas station. I just walked. I didn't even go back to school that day. I like just played hooky. I walked away. I walked down to the gas station where he was at down the road. I introduced myself to him, and he was showing me the truck, and he had a sticker. Now I don't mean this to disrespect any of the ladies because you're all beautiful, but he had a sticker on his back window that said, "No fat chicks because my frame will drag." And I thought, man, that was so like raw and just rude, and like it was awesome. I just thought it was the coolest. Thought it was the coolest sticker. And this thing was fully custom. Had a Lexan back window with the license plate in the back window crooked, and this giant step notch that was damn near taller than the bed rails. And this guy had made up this. Now mind you, this is aging me, but this is pre even airbag suspension. Now hydraulics were out there in the lowrider world. They were very rudimentary. They weren't what they become, but they were out there. A lot of a lot of aircraft stuff and things like that back then. But there was no air ride suspension. And this guy and his buddy had figured out a way to take full size air shocks from like 1,500 Chevy pickup trucks, and they built a shock tower in the front and a shock tower in the rear, and had their own little onboard air compressor and little 5-gallon pig, and they had their own little homemade air ride where they could slam that thing down the ground and drag and pick it. So when he went by the shop the first time I saw him, he literally aired out the back end of the car, or aired out the ass end of the truck, and was throwing sparks. And that's really what got me to go down there. And I remember his name was Tim. He became a lifelong friend of mine. And Tim and his best friend Chuck are actually kind of like lowrider legends in this area. And Chuck Short, which was his best friend at the time, this guy still currently builds some of the top lowriders in the industry right out of this little garage in Cottage Hills, Illinois, and just amazing. And I got to know these guys, and they kind of really cut my teeth. I could, after that day, I couldn't stop thinking about full custom cars. And so my focus and guideline from, being into the Mustangs and old muscle car, I just completely got sidetracked and went full custom from that point on. So that's all I cared about at that point. I purchased every new trucking magazine. I purchased every trucking magazine, and then that's when I got introduced to the lowrider world through these two guys, as their evolvement in the custom car world changed, and that spun off into a whole other career for me later on in life, and really became my main interest for the longest time was lowriding. So. Yeah, it all got started by that one guy that influenced me.
Yeah, and that's, touch back on it, the 97-cent Hot Wheels costing a lot of us a lot of money now. And also the print media, I've had conversations, mini trucking's coming back and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the print media side, with the internet being a double-edged sword, like internet's great, you have all this information at your fingertips, but the reveals and the social media of posting what you got going on has kind of ruined, to a little bit of an aspect anyway, of going to a show. Slamfest is big in Florida where we're from. You would go to Slamfest to see what these guys were doing, like the first S10 on 20s, the first, 22s.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't know anything was coming until you showed up, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that sounds like a small block running, and that joker's, laying body. You're like, oh, okay, that's what's coming up. And also, you lose that first time your truck was in a magazine, or your first time your car was in a magazine, and, I never had a featured car in a magazine, so I missed that. But my C10 had made it, like, if you squint really, really hard and look over there behind that tree, that's my front fender. And, that was exciting. And so to see, L-Rod trying to bring back old school rods and custom culture deluxe, and seeing Rev Heads bringing back mini truck. And I hope that it comes back, and I hope that maybe people start hiding a little bit, because the Cadillac had an opportunity. I missed it because when I got it up here, it fought me on getting started, and then it fought me on body wise and stuff like that. So we're just taking it easy now. But that car was going to go get unveiled at Autorama in Ontario, and the guy told me, he's like, hey man, you got to bring it up in an enclosed trailer. I was like, I don't own an enclosed trailer. And he's like, well, you got to buy one. And I'm like, oh man, I don't, I drive my stuff. And he's like, yeah, well, there's no color photos of the car when it's done. You can post pictures, but they can't be colored. It needs to be unveiled here. No one can see see the car prior to, coming out of the trailer. And I was like, man, because my mind with what we do, my mind is share everything. I want everyone to be excited about what we're doing. I want to be excited for what others are doing. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
I don't buy much into that whole, like, trying to add corporate structure to things like, even things like that. I mean, I can understand if you were building, some kind of a SEMA project and you had major sponsors on board, like, Vintage Air and different companies like that, and they kind of want it to be a SEMA reveal, and you're using that to build the hype. That's one thing. But when we do what we do, like, yeah, you kind of keep the little secret about what's going to come out this, from winter to winter, and, hey, I mean, you're not going to believe what I'm going to come out with next summer, and you got to talk shit and that kind of thing. But even me, man, I never really wanted even that stuff very much. I'm the guy that, like, I love to see my friends shine, and that's one of the reasons why. And I for the time being, I kind of got away from low riding as my and that's a whole other story on the timeline. But we went through the mini trucking phase, and I still think it's really, now seeing this stuff come full circle. It's really, really neat. And what I think is the coolest part about the whole, like, mini trucking scene coming back around is that the other trends aren't far behind that. And what's cool is that these vehicles that were built when we were kids, is they're turning back up. They're turning back up in garages. They're turning up covered in dust. Like the crew cut dually. Everybody knows the crew cut dually, right? Well, I guess I should ask, are you familiar with the crew cut dually?
Yeah, I know them well.
Well, so, that vehicle, it's been through several owners. I think, I think even
Gas Monkey
Garage owned it for a while.
Yeah.
But they that thing had just been sitting in a warehouse. And it's so neat to see a lot of these vehicles popping back up again that have been just chilling and have, lost. There's some people that are, some of them that are even have some patina now because they've been in a backyard for 20 years. And they're doing the best they can to kind of bring back the custom paint without changing it. And I think that stuff's pretty cool. I need to see it come around again, but it's motivated.
And like you said, it's with the, it's the cars that, as teenagers coming into this, you built what you could afford or a little more than you could afford. And then family life, house, adult, all of that stuff. And it's cool that some of those guys were able to just tuck the truck away. And now, life is settled down. I'm a little more stable. I can start bringing the truck back out and seeing these trucks that at one time, Crew Cut went through a whole bunch of transformations after it was built. But, the what was it? The Datsun that just got brought out at, what show was it? Anyway, it just come back out. It's on 18 billets, and everybody like lost their mind over this truck. And it's like, in today's standard, that's just a normal, regular traffic truck.
Yeah, those 17-inch like blades and stuff like that are all hot again.
And now it's like there's whole Facebook groups dedicated to trying to find 15s to 18 billets, or trying to bring that back. And it's awesome because, we've all priced wheels. You go, if you want a set of 20-inch billet wheels, you're $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a piece. But you can still go try to find on Marketplace or on eBay somebody that doesn't know that they can charge an arm and a leg for them because they don't make them anymore. But you can find those for $200 or $300. Well, it's much easier for a 16-year-old kid that just, his mom and dad bought him an old Ford Ranger or an S10 or something like that to be able to afford a set of 15s.
Well, so I'm don't get me wrong, I like body drops. I think they're cool, but I'm a old school static drop fan. Like I like these cars to be as I mean I love hydraulics and air ride. I've had my share of it, but it's like the old mini truck days and stuff like that. I kind of prefer the 14-inch, 15-inch being maximum, and that's if you're now. I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot here because I am gonna put 18s on my 54 Chevy, but I'm gonna run like an 18-inch Steely with a white wall, like that kind of thing. So, but I mean that would be one of the biggest wheels that I've ever put on it. But I still love 13 and 14-inch wire wheels on a lot of stuff, and I love the Krieger Supreme, like the SS, the Supreme wheel, the 14.7 reverses with the big deep dishes and shit. I mean, I've had so many cool cars with reverse wheels on them. And it was hard for me to ever get on board with the big rim thing. I built a lot of suspensions at one of my old shops for big wheel cars because I knew suspension. We did a lot of geometry work, and there was a failed piece of the market. These guys were buying a lot of spring spacers and stuff to lift these cars up for these big wheels, and there wasn't anybody making extended trailing arms or adjustable rear trailing arms or, front tubular A-arms with corrected geometry for the lift and things like that. So I could build a car, I could put a car from hell when our shop was open. I think like 28 was the absolute biggest wheel you could ever even conceivably get your hands on when I stopped building the big wheel cars. And we did a Cutlass on 28s with fully alignable suspension, and it rode and drove just like it had regular suspension on it. It didn't beat you up. It wasn't locked out arms with big spring spacers in it. I took pride in actually trying to make those cars work right. They never really made sense to me.
And that falls back on to, you say you're putting 18s on the 54, and when I say big wheels, I mean 20s. 20s are big on a classic to me. I don't think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit more wheel,
right.
But I think the look is going to look really good, like a Detroit steel style wheel with other. But I like my 64 Impala. It was on 15-inch Steelies with wide white walls, like a turquoise painted wheel. I just find that it's easier to get the car slammed without having to do crazy suspension modifications. I find that back then it was a lot easier to get 15-inch tires. Now 15-inch tires are kind of hard to come by because they don't come on modern cars. Yeah.
And that's what I was getting at with, you have to, when you're putting a car together, you kind of have to think about the mission for the car, like we talked about in a previous conversation. If you're building a car that you're going to want to, say, go on the Get Out and Drive Your Shit tour with us, LS and a overdrive transmission fits that bill really well.
Yeah, that's what I've been. That's the bit.
A flathead with 3 on the tree, that's probably not saying you can't do it. It's just not going to be the best case scenario.
No, so with what you're saying, I can relate. When I bought Betty White my 54 Chevy Tour, Chevy 210, when I bought Betty White, she had a small block in her already, which was something I was looking for. I wanted something that somebody had already put a Mustang 2 on, somebody that had got the basics started. But it didn't have interior. It didn't have, it had a bench seat, no door panels, no carpet, no nothing. I mean, it was a rattle trap, and it ran and drove, had 2-speed power glide in it. And I mean, it just, to try to keep up with my other modern transmission high rod buddies, it was a pain in the ass. It was hard to keep up with highway speeds and stuff. So that car became, the goal for that car was road trips. So from the start, everything I put into it, we changed the transmission out to a 700 R4 with overdrive, and everything has been gold behind making this a car that we could road trip. And I almost took it on the Hot Rod Power Tour this last year, a couple months ago, and the world kept me from it, man. Everything stopped me, and I'm glad I took a different vehicle. I took a 1-ton Slam Dually that we had worked on with another hot rod shop on the tour. And I'm glad because it did great on the tour. It was comfortable. When a lot of other people were overheating, I think my car would have overheated. And I got a 327 in it. It's carbureted 327, but we've done all kinds of work to it, and it never ran a degree warmer than 180 degrees the whole time I had it until I put it on vintage air. And everything's been done. Air conditioning, power steering, rack and pinion. We just recently put Willwood power brakes on it. Full bucket seats, center console, Apple CarPlay hidden under the dash. I mean, I've this thing's been, it's going to be a full-on audio demo vehicle here. We're kind of redoing the installation now, so it's going to be like a full JL audio demo vehicle, and but still with the whole aspect of Jill and I, my wife and I, being able to take it and road trip it and do these traveling. I'm more of a cruising guy. I like to get my friends together and go have a destination of a place to go eat, and we'll go travel 4 hours together to go eat at a place and hang out for the day and reverse the trip. And we'll take 2 Lane America and Route 66 or things like that, and we'll make an adventure out of it. I think seeing hot rods in the wild that way is so much better than just the guys that really just go from trailer to show and don't really ever get to enjoy their vehicles.
Well, and that's kind of why we made the transition from, our anniversary show to now doing the tour. Do I ever think it's going to get as big as the Power Tour? No. But with that, and next year's we're going to be on 66 like me and you talked previously. But it's getting out to shows that, I've been to the West Coast Custom Show. It's an awesome show. But the part of that, the way I went there was on a road trip with 2 of my buddies. And that part of the trip was just as good or better than the show itself. And the show itself is awesome. But the camaraderie of, we're going to drive, there's a problem or something goes haywire, you fix it, you get on the road, we camped, you pull into the campground, you fire up the grill, you bullshit about the day, and everybody goes to bed. You wake up the next morning and you head back out again. And next year's West Coast, the following year is going to be a different show, probably on the East Coast. So us East Coast guys are going to have the short trip next year, and those West Coast guys, hopefully they see what we're doing this year and they're like, hey, that was pretty cool. Let's meet y'all en route like y'all did us, and the image in my head for this is, 20, 30, however many cars we can get cruising a road that made America what it was. In 1965, if you were if you were on Route 66, this is what it would look like. It would look like a bunch of 65 or pre-65 cars that had a little bit of custom touches. Granted, we're going to have some modern power plants that they didn't have in 65, but these cars are built kind of the way that they would have done in the 60s. My Cadillac's going to have wild, crazy paint, but it's a 60s custom. Psycho with the Lincoln, it's a mid-60s custom. He's on hydraulics, I'm on air ride. I got a LS, he's got a Ford motor. Those are just 2 examples because he's making the whole trip with me. He's coming out of 8L with me because we're leaving from his house. But I want, give me some late 30s, early 40s bombs. Give me some, or if you don't have a car that fits the rules of West Coast Customs and you just want to come out and drive your shit, that's really what it comes down to, is let's get together, let's enjoy our cars, let's go places that we've never been, and you don't have to necessarily stress that you're out there by yourself, because you have car guy buddies that are there to help you along the way, or whatever whatever happens, you have people there.
I mean, that 100% was the magic sauce of the Hot Rod Power Tour for me. My wife and I, we've been together for 28 years, and we've been together since high school. And, she was in high school. I had dropped out of a different high school, but we've been together for a long time. And this last year was the first time, a couple of months ago, that I took guys vacation only. And, and I enjoy, there's nothing I enjoy more in this world than traveling. Traveling the United States with my wife. I mean, she's my best friend, and it is some of the best times and memories we've had. However, I'm fortunate enough to have a friend in my life that has been a rock to me since I was 5 years old. And I moved into the neighborhood. I remember like it was yesterday, and him and I had become friends from day one. I moved into the neighborhood, and I was 5 years old, and he's a couple of years older than me. He's 50 and I'm 47. And, I almost lost him a couple of years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, to a massive heart attack. He had a massive heart attack and was stubborn and didn't get help when he needed to get help, and it almost cost him his life. And he's one of those friends, and I'm sure you probably have one in your life too, that you may not see him for a year, and then you reconnect with him and it was like you were never gone.
Yep.
I love him to death. And so him and I, it was kind of like a healthy midlife crisis for the both of us. We got to go away from all of our responsibilities. God bless my wife allowed me to do that, because we have an extremely busy business. And so, my wife was holding down the fort here without me. And so I appreciate her for that. But man, it was so cool. Like, I would have thought that the power tour was very venue related. And you know what? Everybody's power tour is different, I've learned. This was my bucket list. One of my bucket list things to do was the Power Tour. And being that I'm so involved with Route 66, which is something that we'll probably talk about later. But, so when they announced that it was going to be on a section of Route 66 that actually drives right past my house, celebrating the 100-year centennial of Route 66, it was like, okay, this is it. This is the chance. And so we made it happen. And it turns out to not be. So you got 5 or 6 different venues that you stop at throughout the the week of the Power Tour, and they're big, giant car shows. And there's a couple of points I wanted to tie into this too, because you talked about however many cars you can get to show up and everything. And remember the days when there was 100 or under. Because those are going to be the best memories you have. Because once it gets to the point that the Power Tour is now, I talked to a bunch of guys that have done the Power Tour started in like the mid '90s for Hot Rod Magazine, and I've talked to some old timers that I've done every single one of them, and they can remember when the first Power Tour was only like 160 people, and just up until 10 or 15 years ago, it was like 900 to 1,000. Well, this year they had on record of participators. They had like something like over almost 9,800 people, and it was just amazing. But what it turns out to be is not about the venue at all, because you'll find out that if you walk that venue one time, it's the same every venue you stop at, because it's the same exact vendors, sponsors.
Yeah, they're
everything.
They're moving with the tour.
Yeah, exactly, and providing a new experience in every city you come to, basically. Yeah. So we, once we realized that, it became really much more of just a cannonball run adventure with checkpoints for us.
Yep.
And so we just knew that we had to be at that venue before they closed at 5 o'clock to get our lanyard stamped, so we could continue to earn points for our long hauler adventure, because that's the goal, man. Yep. That metal plaque, that long hauler's plaque.
And that's what I was saying with our trip. Like, this year or next year is West Coast Customs. The following year, the show is going to change, and it might not even be another custom show. It may be a C10 show. It may be a rat rod show. It, because I enjoy all facets, or I enjoy 99% of all facets of the car community. So
I definitely do too. I stick more to the kind of I like the full custom stuff. I'm not a big fan of like numbers matching concourse style cars. That doesn't really do anything for me. Like, I can't leave anything alone. I have to customize everything.
I'll say it like this with those cars. I appreciate, even if I don't understand the car, I appreciate the shit out of somebody that's willing.
Oh yeah, there's a difference.
But that, like you said, that's not me.
It's just not me.
I can't
and
drive
partly
it.
because
those cars don't fit.
Partly because unless you spend 6 figures restoring a vehicle to that condition, or you buy one at 6 figures in that condition, it was never something that was financially achievable for me. You know what I mean? I come from nothing, man. I mean, I can't tell you how many years I had, cutlasses in Monte Carlos that I just cut the springs out of and just slammed as statically as low as I possibly could and just to be different, that kind of thing. Bounce my guts out, all over town. I loved it.
My first truck was heated springs and as big a lowering block as I could fit on a 15 set of billets. And there's a bridge coming out of my mom and dad's neighborhood. And if you hit the overpass bridge, you would keep bouncing until you made it into town unless you stopped and reset the truck. Because the suspension was garbage. And I drove it was a 2.8, the little V6 with a 5-speed. And I drove the dog snot out of that truck, and it was a fun truck. And yeah, it bounced and it rode like crap. And probably if I rode in it now, my kidneys would be beat through my head. But it was, for me, me and Dad built a 82 S10. This was an 82 S10, so it was kind of like the passing on of a truck that me and Dad built that I was no longer going to be able to get. I was never going to be able to financially afford to buy it back. So then this became, my little project truck, and eventually the C10. And, as I've gotten older, the parts that I can financially afford or convince myself that I can financially afford have gotten better. But the grassroots, the kid, a good playoff is we went to a show a couple weeks back. The show is, the entry for the show is school supplies. And there was we sponsored the limbo contest. And a 16-year-old girl with a Civic static on coilovers and Volks or something rims, she won the limbo contest. It was her first car. It was the first time she got to bring her car to a car show and be like her car. And she won a trophy that said that she was the show's lowest. And the smile that it put on her face, and there's a picture on Facebook. I got a giant smile on my face because it was also, I won my first award with the Cadillac, best project. But the smile on her face to see that it was something that her and her dad built, and it wasn't even her car. It started as the dad bought it because he wanted to kind of relive his teenage years, but she helped him put work in on it and said she liked the car, and he said, well, happy 16th birthday, it's your car. And him and her brought it to the car show, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like, this is exactly what it's supposed to be. It just it gave me hope, because a lot of times you go to a show or a cruising or anything, and it gets real cliquey, and we need to stop that. We need, like, everybody doesn't have to have exactly the same car, or it would be boring.
No, not at all. That's a fact. Like, to each his own. That was one of the things that was cool about lowriding. It was such a self-expression, and you could just take the art of it a completely different direction. And there was, I mean, I tell you though, the clickiness of the politics is really what kind of ruins it ruins it for everyone. I mean, I kind of had this little car group we got together because I've been a member of so many car clubs that just didn't make it because the presidents were just, maniacs or their lives weren't together or whatever the case may be. But I got a little group together that's kind of like, we just, there was no dues. We were like a breakfast club, and some of the other guys would tease us and call us an old man breakfast club. But we would every one Saturday every single month we would stop. We'd go have breakfast together. We'd go on cruises. We'd go eat fish along the river road somewhere, or go get barbecue at a cool place, or just anything. And that was some of the best fun I had. Now growing up, my dad wasn't into cars. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. I was back and forth between mom, dad, and my grandparents. My mom and dad were. My dad was a very practical person. My dad always believed that a vehicle was to get you back and forth to the job you hate every day, and that was its only purpose. And you if you had a truck, you might put some running boards on it or a bed cover to make it more utilitarian. But everything that went wrong, man, like they would always be like, well, it's because you lowered that goddamn thing to the ground. And everything would have to do with that. It didn't matter. Transmission went out. It's because of that. If my brakes were bad, it's because I lowered the damn thing to the ground. If my radio, any of those things, like it was always because of that. It was frustrating because I just wanted to, I wanted to customize everything, and I couldn't there for a while. My grandparents were awesome. They let us. I mean, we built. Me and my little cousin, we built Mazda B2000s on hydraulic. I mean, they helped my little cousin buy a car, a pickup truck, a really nice S10, I remember. And within a couple of hours of him owning it, the cab was into the carport. The bed was in the bed was in the carport next to the cab. The motor was out of it. The frame was in the garage, being wire wheeled and customized and like what happened to the truck? And like, well, sometimes they got finished and sometimes those jobs didn't. Sometimes they went to the junkyard. Like, I can't tell you how many vehicles I had this square body Cavalier. This was before import tuner stuff. It was more built in the realm of like traditional low riding with. It was turquoise, it had like teal and purple crushed velvet interior and low chain wheel, and it was static dropped to the ground. I mean, literally, because unibody car. That thing's floor pans were almost completely dragging the ground. I mean, I had side draft exhaust coming like out of the front fender, like before they were doing it with turbo cars and shit. Like this thing was loud and annoying and slammed and everything else. And I remember they were doing some road construction on our road, and they had left the ridge of a manhole cover exposed. It was like they ground the road down around it, and that thing was sticking up like 2 or 3 inches. And I was driving down the main road. Guy in front of me slammed on the brakes. I turned the corner real fast onto that side road, and when I did, I drove right over the top of that manhole cover, and literally, man, it knocked a hole in the oil pan. You could stick your whole fist of it in there, and then it caught the lip of the transmission pan and peeled it completely off the car. Like all of the bolt holes were still in the transmission, and the transmission pan was laying behind. Like it just ruined it immediately.
Do y'all does Illinois do where when they rip up a road to say like run power lines or something underneath of it, that they put the big metal plates that are supposed to like protect you from falling in the holes?
Oh, they do that, but most of the time around here, it's because there's either sinkholes that they're repairing, or there's sewer drain lines or something like that under there. But yeah, there's a metal plate on the main road here in town right now.
So we were coming back. The painter they do a local, like a cruise in third Saturday in Valdosta. and we were coming back. I was riding with him, and we're cruising along, and he rides. He's on 205 15s, so real small tires, like a 26-inch tire, and he rides really low because it's a 62 Lincoln on a town car chassis, so he can turn lock to lock very, very low because of the little tires. And I've driven his car, and I always drive it higher than he does because I drive like my car, air ride. You know, you leave the front end up so you can turn. And we were coming, I was like, I seen the metal, and it had shifted just a little bit, so it had a nice, good-sized lip. Caught it with the trans fan, and I'm like, oh! And he's like, well, I guess we'll see if we have to add to the collection when we get back home. And I'm like, what? He goes, man, I don't know why. He's like, the Lincoln Town Car, the transmission pan is like an inch below the frame. He's like, and there's nothing to protect it. And I hit it all the time. And I was like, well, if you've learned, like, you should learn from that. And he's like, yeah, but I'd rather ride low. And I'm like, we should build a pan or a cross member or something. But
yeah, I never thought that. I mean, it was crazy. It was like just a giant flash of smoke. The oil pressure dropped so fast that it just shut the motor off.
At least it shut itself off.
Yeah, but it's still after I replaced everything.
Oh.
The transmission, believe it or not, the transmission was still good. I put a new pan and gasket and filter and everything on it, and filled it back up again, and the transmission shifted fine. But man, it wasn't even a week after I replaced the oil pan that it developed a rod knock. So it must have caused.
It didn't get shut off in time then.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, I can't remember how many miles were on that thing, but that car had so much stuff to do. Like, it was a four-cylinder car, and we had there were some guys that were racing these like dirt track cars that were doing little tweaks and stuff back then, and they had some upgrades done to it, and had a larger throttle body on it, and some other things. But every once in a while at a stoplight, you'd have to shift it up into neutral and let it idle up because it would want to idle so low that it would die sometimes. And my wife hated driving it because, like, we were just boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. She might have to take it to the store or something, and it was, it's hammered. She just didn't like the responsibility of dodging every cigarette butt in the road, that kind of thing. And she shifted up into neutral and kind of freaked her out a little bit whenever she went to go leave because she had given it gas before she had completely shifted. So she kind of did a little mini neutral drop. Yeah. And that thing just smoked the front tires off of it and she said she just freaked out, and when she did it, she just like mashed the gas, and she's like, I thought it was never going to stop burning out. Freaking awesome. Just front tires, and hell, you run. I've had it all. I've had every kind of G body car. I've had all the Monte Carlos, Regals, Cullises. And when I got older and started getting bigger, I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'1", like fucking 450 pounds. I'm a big guy. And so I started driving the Caprices and the Impalas, and people knew me around here for having lowrider Caprice wagons. I'd have like a 90, 91, 92, 3 Caprice wagon on 13-inch spokes, and custom paint and stuff like that. I used to have a lot of fun with that kind of stuff, and I still dig those cars, like the Impala SSs and stuff like that. I had a couple of pretty nice ones. But I've always, for some reason, as I've got older, I felt more attracted to the Cadillacs. For one of them, I've owned probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 really nice, like 90s Fleetwoods. The LP1 rear-wheel drive, Fleetwoods, like 91 through 96 Fleetwoods. And then I've owned a couple of the older, like, when I say older, I mean like 86 Coupe de Villes, hydraulics, standard traditional lowriders. I'm after like a 60s land yacht now. That's what I really would. I mean, of course, anyone would want to have like a 59, but I'm looking for like, I want like a 66, 2-door or 4-door, because they're rad. And
it's funny you said everybody wants a 59. I actually don't want a 59. I want a 60. And it's very, very weird reason. I mean, it's the same car. The 59 has the little booby lights on the tail light that everybody puts in everything. If you're going to French in a tail light, everybody puts a 59 Cadillac light. And for some reason, that just sticks in my head. I'm like, I don't want that. But 60 is the year of the Cadillac that I wanted. And 60s Cadillac has always been like my I'll get there eventually car. So when the 62 come for sale, I was like, I have to figure out a way to come up with money and go down there and buy this car. And that's how that came about. But definitely now it's like, because I was more, I was building the Model A. Her car's like a patina Survivor car. I'd never really liked shiny cars. And then when we went out to the West Coast, I was like, oh man, a mild custom would be cool. So then when the Cadillac came, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be simple. And then that went out the window as soon as I got up here and started working on it. I was like, oh no, it can't be simple. We got to be outrageous. Body mod wise, we're keeping it, mild, but the paint's going to, the roof's going to be ridiculous and stuff like that. I'm a roof guy too. My 54 has got the body's white, but it's got a House of Colors candy purple roof and dash, and all the interior trim panels that go around the doors are all done in the House of Colors candy purple, and that's the body will eventually be the House of Colors snow white pearl. Okay. And then it will look exactly the way it does now, except for it'll have a richer look. And here's the thing: I never wanted to have a shiny car either. This one will be there by default. But my 64 Impala was the opposite of that. I mean, it looked like it got truck straight out of a field, and I loved it. And there was little expectations, and I painted the roof white and left the body exactly the way it was. And my major concern is it needed lower quarter sections on both sides, and the one side was better than the other, but I knew I was going to replace it, and I was like, man, I don't want to lose the patina. There was some really, really character building, stuff going on there, so I was going to have to figure out a way to flow that back in to match the rest of the Impala, because I just love the fact that I didn't have to worry about it. I could go out to a drive-in burger stand and set my root beer on the hood and not give a shit, and not care about who's leaning against it, or little kids that want to get in it and look at it. And I didn't want to be that gold chainer, and now I just my 54 has just aggressively started going down that street rod kind of realm. I mean, the next step for me is going to be an LS swap, and I just don't have the funds to do it the way I want to do it right now. That was the idea, with her car. One, it was her introduction to cars, and it was something that we could get. It was never supposed to hang around. It was supposed to just be the car that we had. We could go to shows, go to cruise-ins, and my dad was a trader. He traded cars like most people change their clothes.
I'm a trader too.
That was what it, so I was just like, okay, we'll buy this car. It's a good entry. It gets us into gets us into to the mix, and we'll just trade it off or sell it or whatever. And we'll find we'll figure out what we want. And it kind of it fit the bill for what we were doing so well that it was like, we'll just hang on to it for a little while. And then I was building, most people wouldn't call it a rat rod, but I was building a bare metal Model A, tunnel ram, yada, yada, yada. So I was like, we'll just get rid of the car once the Model A's done. And my wife was like, I kind of like it. I'm like, you can have it. She's like, oh yeah, well, but you pull up to a gas station and kids have never seen one. So they're asking questions. They want to sit in it. They want to hear it run. They want to, her car's static, so there's no switches. But, and then you get the older people that come and they're like, oh, my dad had one, or I took my wife to ice cream. Our first date was in a 54, or we used to drive it around the farm and blah, so it kind of connects everything. And like you said, you don't have to worry about who parked close to you, or
it makes it so much fun. It makes it so much more enjoyable. You know what I mean? Like, it really does make it an enjoyable car. The funny thing is too, is that I like to build the concept of the car. If I have something that I want to achieve, like, I want to get to this part, I just want to get this thing running, or I want to get it out and enjoy it for this summer. And I lose interest, and my wife will not let me get rid of this 54 Chevy. And I love this car. Betty White's famous around here. Everybody knows her. She's been in every parade for the last 6 years. Everybody knows the car. But I would sell her tomorrow for the opportunity to build the next concept. And my wife's like, you don't have any loyalty. You don't care about that car. I love that car. I love that car with all my heart. And I love what it's become, and I care. But like right now, I'm obsessed with the 90s OBS Chevys, and I'm just took that dually, OBS dually on Power Tour, and I want to build one of my own. And I've got a concept in my mind that I want to build, and I have to build this fucking truck. And it doesn't mean that Betty has to go anywhere, but it would be a whole lot easier for me. My car budget has always been like its own entity, and so like I've always funded my drug habit, which is cars, with the other cars. So like, I had my black 96 Impala SS that had 70,000 original miles on it, and I belonged to a friend of mine in the past. I didn't want to get rid of it, but it was time for the next car, and that was where my fluid money was at. So I sold that car, and that's how I ended up buying Betty to begin with. But I had to sell my 64 to get there, and that kind of thing. And I always find myself, unfortunately, in a position where I want to try to go back and repurchase those cars. I can't. I want my 64 back really bad, and I can't find it, and I have no idea what happened to my 96 Impala. Like it went to another state and disappeared. And the guy that it's really bothersome. I know the money went through because I spent it and cash and everything, but like it was a fake account and everything. Like the guy that I was talking to immediately after the sale anymore, and I don't know. And what's really crazy about that is that the deal almost didn't go through on that car because somebody had created a clone account on Marketplace. And when he called me, he said, "Hey man, I'm fixing to leave to come meet you now." And I was like, "Where? What?" I'm like, what are you talking about? We didn't have any discussion, about that. And he said, "Yeah, I'm supposed to meet you like in the Chicagoland area." I'm like, "Dude, I live in St. Louis. Like I live in the St. Louis metropolitan area. Like I live on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River." And I said, "There's no way. Chicago's 5 hours, 6 hours away from me." I'm like, "Dude, there's no way. I did not tell you to meet me there." And he's like, he was sending me screenshots. He's like, "We were talking." I'm like, "No, we were talking on this message string." And I sent him our message string, and he was like, "Holy shit." So this guy almost showed up with like $15,000 to I don't know
robbed.
what. I don't know what was going to happen to him. And so then he was so apprehensive about finally meeting me, and I was like, "Look, man, here's the deal. I own a business. I'm in public. I'm surrounded with cameras. If you'd like, we can meet at the police station." Yeah. Like I don't really care. It's like, will the real Shawn Fowler please stand up? You know what I mean? It was crazy.
And with the for sale or selling cars, to start the next one, with doing the podcast, I've talked to there are quite a few people, and it's some people. I view it the same way you view it, as the car as a tool. Her car has a for sale or trade sticker on it. It's had it on there since day one. The Cadillac probably won't get like announced like it's for sale, but if someone wants to bring me a handful of money and I can move on to something the next, build or next idea, I've jokingly said that if we're on this road trip and somebody brings me enough money, I'll take the dogs out of the bus and they can have the bus and the Cadillac. But, jokes. I kind of need a place to live. But, it's, and then you get some people that, it's an attachment to a car, and she's posted the 54 for sale a couple of times, or we'll be out somewhere and somebody will tell her, oh, it needs a full restoration. I'm like, no, it doesn't. First of all, the car's not worth, money-wise, restoring it. You're going to spend 10 to 15 grand to bring it back to quote-unquote perfect condition, and the car's going to be worth 10 or 15 grand.
Which is the other reason exactly why I was telling you that when I started the train of thought about concourse quality cars, it's because one of the reasons I got into the crazy custom stuff to begin with was because the cars that I was buying were already so screwed up that there was they were a lost cause if it wasn't for me. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times you end up with guys that are LS swapping and doing a major framework and stuff like that and custom crazy body modifications and things because out of necessity, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just to bring another one back.
Well, you had mentioned that you got crazy ideas that go through your head. What is unlimited budget? Somebody brought you a blank check and said, build the car. What's that car?
There's so many of them. That's the problem. I have a legitimate car problem, and I just want to have this warehouse with, that would be my final sign of wealth. I would have this collection of just obscurities because I like stupid shit. I do. I like slammed and chopped milk trucks and like the old metro deliveries, and I like cab overs and I like station wagons, and I like a lot of really, but I'm super into big ass land yachts. You know what I mean? I love the cat. I'm a big Elvis fan. I love Elvis. I go to a lot of Elvis tribute artist shows and stuff like that. So for me, my Cadillac, his name's already the King, and it would be kind of in a Elvis kind of rockabilly / lowrider type of deal, but not the unlimited build. I can't even tell you that's impossible. You're handing me a blank check to do whatever I want to do with, and I can't even make that decision. I'm so indecisive.
I feel you because Ashley interviewed me and I told her, I said, you're going to have to break it down because there's so many, okay, it's a 60s car, it would be a Caddy. If I had to do a muscle car, it would be this. If it was a truck, it'd be this.
I drive a brand new Yukon Denali, and it's for, fancy heated seats and all of that shit. I enjoy the truck. However, it is just reliable traveling transportation for me. Like I would be literally just as happy if I could get rid of that thing and buy this OBS dually that I'm looking at and make it nice. I would drive it every day without a problem. I would much rather drive an older custom. In fact, I think there's going to be a trend, and not necessarily in the custom world, but I think there's definitely going to be a trend with the economy going the direction that it's going in, and which is not a great one, and new vehicles costing so much nowadays. Oh, yeah. I think there's going to be a huge trend of people buying the old Chevys and the old Fords and fixing them up to and here in my business, we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of these guys are bringing in their old Chevy trucks that they were going to trade in, and they're saying, heck with it. I want to put a modern stereo on it. I want Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I want to change my speakers out. I want to add a dash cam. I want to bring it up to technology. I want to make it enjoyable. And I think I'm going to keep this thing. There's one guy did the full Monty. He inherited his grandpa's truck. It was like a 90, let's just say like a 95 extended cab, K1500, 4-wheel drive truck. the guy did everything, did a full restoration on it, but it did a stock full restoration on it. So this thing was like brand new off the showroom floor, and we put a new radio in it for him, and did a few things, and that's what he was driving every day.
But
and in a way, I think that's cooler than
you take the money that he put into that truck, and it's less than $100,000 that Chevrolet's asking for a new truck.
Much less, and much less, and ironically enough, in that restored state now, probably worth more than the $60,000 truck. I mean, if you had one that was put together nice enough, I've seen him go across Barrett Jackson for $50,000 or $60,000 for a truck that I used to be able to buy for $1,500.
Well, and you buy a brand new truck or a brand new car, brand new SUV, brand new anything, they're all significantly higher than I feel like they should be. But you drive it off the lot, and if you try to turn around and sell it, you'd lose half your money.
Well, I tell you what, there was a weird thing that happened whenever we had to deal with COVID and vehicles weren't being produced and computer chips weren't being built and this and that, where we kind of went backwards a little bit. And I actually had some car lots reach out to me, and the Yukon that I had before this one was a Silver 13. And I had them calling and offering me $12,000 to $13,000 for a truck that I would have been happy selling for $8,000.
Right.
I ended up trading it in like a little bit later on for almost $11,000, and I didn't pay that for it when I bought it. And now my Denali that I'm in now, I paid about $76,000 for, and I thought, I'm a well-known boss and business owner now. I need to have something decent, because I was just driving hood rat cars. I would drive my rat rods and drive, my paid off. I was paying off all my vehicles up until, my wife insisted that you need to get something nice for yourself. Like, you need to get something nice and reliable so that when we go to travel and stuff, we don't have to think about it. And then so far, those vehicles have been less reliable than the ones that I was driving to begin with. Yeah. I bought one of my first the first treat myself vehicle. Well, I bought my silver Yukon. I had it for about 5 or 6 years, but I bought it from a used car lot. The guy treated me really well on it. I think I might have paid $8,000 or $9,000 for it when I first got it. I traded it in for 11, almost 100,000 miles later. So it was just very well taken care of, and then it went up in value somehow. But my 2021 GMC Sierra Denali pickup truck that I bought, bought it, drove to Kentucky. We do a lot of roadside attractions, a lot of the cool 2-lane highways. That's my big thing. That's my interest is in Route 66, but other 2-lane highways like the Dixie Highway and different things like that. And so we were going to Kentucky to stay in the Wigwam motels. They're in, I don't know if you know this or not, but in Cave City, Kentucky, there's the oldest surviving Wigwam motels. The actual concrete teepees, like the ones you see on TV in California, are actually right there in Kentucky. And the oldest ones, Village Number 2. And we were going there, and I was probably 50 miles away, and the engine blew in that new truck. I mean, it blew up with like 40,000 miles on it.
Oh.
And basically number 3 lifter and that stupid active fuel management, it failed, grenaded the camshaft, and that was pretty much all she wrote. That cost me about $11,000 to fix, because I bought this car from a dealership. I got it from a small dealership, and with only a 90-day warranty on it, and that had already passed, and I paid for it. Ironically enough, I had won like almost $11,000 in a week worth of playing slot machines. My dad has got me playing slot machines on Thursdays with him after work. We don't do it anymore, but I went on a winning streak, and I just kept, every time I would be up, I'd quit playing. It didn't matter if I was only playing for 10 minutes. If I hit a jackpot of significant amount, I quit, and I would kept bankrolling the money. It cost me exactly what I won to fix that damn motor. So Jesus, the Lord giveth and He taketh away. That's what I say. But, he did not let me hold on to that money. I was so stoked, dude. I thought I was going to get to do the LS swap on my 54 early, like way earlier than I projected. and then I didn't get to even spend any of that money on myself. I had to get that truck back to square one. That truck only had 40,000 miles on it, and GM wouldn't stand behind it.
And
so
you used to.
I picked it. I traded it in on the Yukon Denali that I drive now, thinking, okay, I got that thing fixed. I gotta get rid of this piece of junk, and because I felt like no matter what, they only repaired the upper end. Like I felt like there was metal in the motor. Somehow it was going to give me trouble in the future. Bad juju. I don't want this truck anymore. I traded it in immediately. I was able to be completely break even on it. And I bumped into Denali. And then I would say probably 30,000 miles into that Denali, that motor blew up.
Oh my God.
So right now, the two trucks that I bought to treat myself to reliability and to success have been
the other way.
The biggest pieces of junk I've owned.
And
they're beautiful. They park themselves. They drive down the road on their own.
It's hilarious.
They can't, they can't use quality parts internally. It's only the active fuel management. If they would have not used that, or if they would have done their research and used superior parts, the LS platform is one of the most reliable platforms on the planet.
As long as it doesn't somehow have DOD they managed to mess that up. So, it's funny because in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they projected these cars like if you had a 100,000 mile car, you were like a great mechanic, and they sell these new like, oh, they're super reliable, you can run them, and you see the newer cars, they're putting so much extra frou-frou on them with active air fuel management, displacement on demand, the cars that shut off at red lights and then start, so your starter activates 53 times on your way to work.
Like how beneficial could that? I've thought about that so many times. Like, how beneficial could that absolutely? I mean, honestly, like the old adage that people go through the trouble of turning their thermostats all the way down when they go to work, and then coming home to a hot house and then cooling it off again. Like, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I've noticed that if you set your house at 68 degrees and you leave it at 68, it just chills all summer long, and there's no fluctuations. But it's the same thing with the starting. How could shutting your car off for a brief moment at a stoplight benefit you at all? Wouldn't you think that the amount of fuel that it takes to start back up again would circumvent any positivity that would not to mention the wear and tear on parts for no apparent reason?
I was going to say, they get to sell you a new starter.
And there's secondary batteries like so, in my business, we do a lot of of course, like I said, I'm one of the largest stereo shops in the St. Louis metropolitan area, and one of the things that we deal with a lot is vehicle integration. Now we're having to work around these technologies to be able to upgrade the stereo systems and the alarms and remote starts and things like that. And there's inherent problems. Like with the Jeeps, for instance, the Jeeps have a really bad problem with their start to stop systems or whatever, stop and start systems. They have a secondary battery that's hidden in the Jeep, and most people don't know that this battery exists. And so if you lift the hood, you look under the hood of a Jeep, like an average, like let's say a JL or like one of the new 20 JL Jeeps, you look under the hood, you'll see a standard battery, and there's a battery, right? And then especially if they're a couple of years old, they'll come to us and they'll say, well, we're having trouble with the battery going dead constantly, and you can't figure out. Well, a lot of people don't know that there's that battery, but then if you pull that battery out, there's like a fuse box that the battery box sits on top of. It's got a bunch of different relays and stuff in it, and when you remove that, there's another little plastic housing that has a trap door on it. And I mean, you gotta take off a breather arm, and you gotta do all these things, and you open up this door, and there's another battery that's buried in there under all of that stuff. It's about the size of a lawn and garden battery, and the way it's wired into the system is that it provides supplement 12 volt to all the things that need to stay active whenever the stupid thing shuts off and starts and shuts off and starts. The problem is that those batteries fail far more frequently than the actual starting battery does in the car. But because of the way they're linked together, that bad battery below will cause the other one to draw itself dead. And because with that dead battery below it will leave things on that don't go to sleep when they're supposed to. Then it causes a charging issue where you've got this dead cell battery below that's not allowing things to work the way they're supposed to. These cars are so very, very finicky on the computers and the fuel injection systems receiving 12 volts all the time, constantly. When you start robbing for Peter to pay Paul, it causes problems, and so we've had to do so much stuff to work around with this fancy new technology. I just can't see it. I just can't see it. And the thing that stinks about us is that anything that we do, whether it's a remote starter or an amplifier for a stereo system or anything like that, we're always the scapegoat for any problems that car has after that. We argue with so many dealerships. It's like, do your job. My amp has nothing to do with this problem. It's a common problem, and forums are just a lifesaver a lot of times because you can take a sample of what the community's talking about in the industry, and you'll find that 400 people are having the same dang problem that you're having, and numbers matter.
Yes.
So,
and a lot of times the manufacturer, they're going to use every excuse to not have to cover it.
They are. Things were so much simpler, man. Like, I have to tell you, when I drove that OBS on Power Tour, I was like, hey, wait a minute, where's lane departure, and where's the overhead display, and where's this and where's that? And it's like, no, man, it's just you, a steering wheel, a brake pedal, a gas pedal, and then whatever technology I put back in it, you know what I mean, with Apple CarPlay and stuff like that. But, it's like I didn't need all that crap,
I messed up. We had a local show. It was actually like the first time my Cadillac, we painted the roof, and that was the first time it seen daylight while I owned it at a quote-unquote show. And a buddy of ours, he's got a crew cab square body dually, and he couldn't go, so he's like, hey, would you drive my truck down there? I'm like, yeah, I'll drive it down there. That was the stupidest decision I've ever made in my entire life, because as I'm driving it, it's a 6.0 LS Holly dash, or Autometer dash, but Holly Terminator Max X, blah 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 blah, same system I got in the Cadillac, only mine's a 4.8, and just rolling, driving out, and it's like, man, it's got enough noise and clunks and clatters that you feel like you're driving a truck, but it still cruises out fine. And it's on 22.5 Alcoas.
Nice.
Some dude, the previous owner to him, because he was originally was like, oh, I want to lower it, and we got underneath the truck, and we're looking at suspension. I'm like, dude, you don't touch the suspension. It's everything underneath of it. QA1 coilovers, Willwood brakes. Like, the dude dumped a S load of money to make the truck ride and drive the way it does. And it still has some quirks with the LS swap. They didn't get everything correct, but he's working through all that stuff. But it's like, man, and my Dodge, I have a 14 Cummins 2500 on 37s, and it's the tradesman's package. So vinyl floor, still has the shifter for four-wheel drive, not electronic and all that shit. And it's real simple, but I'm like, man, I have a payment on this truck. I could sell this truck, and for what I could get, I could go buy a square body and not have a payment, and it would still be able to pull everything I pull. I'm like, man, so that was, I've been lulling that over, like, once I get up here, get everything figured out, maybe I'll sell that truck. Because like you said, and my Dodge is given, other than it gave me one problem, it's the previous owner before me. It's got all billet internals in the transmission, and matter of fact, when I bought the truck, the dealership was like, yeah, it's got a lifetime warranty on transmission. And I said, man, it's a Dodge. Nobody does a lifetime transmission warranty. That's the garbage part of that. I said, if anything, that's the garbage part that nobody will warranty. And he was like, I'm telling you, that transmission's got a lifetime warranty. And I was like, yeah, okay, I need the information. I called the guy up, and I was like, hey, I got this 14 Ram, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, and you think it's got a lifetime warranty? I said, that's what they're telling me. And he's like, man, he's like, not on a Dodge. He's like, but give me the VIN number. So I gave him the VIN number. He's like, yeah, you break that transmission. He said, I'll come pick it up wherever it's broke at. I said, do what? He's like, yeah, it's got, they're up in North Alabama, and they do all the pulling truck transmissions. He's like, so we built that transmission to do that. He's like, so if you break that on the street, he's like, you call me. And I had the solenoid. There's two things that they don't warranty: overdrive clutches and transpack solenoids. And the transpack solenoids went out. But other than that, the truck has been flawless on things that I have done. You know, if it messed up, it was because I messed it up, or you're gonna mess it up regardless. But like you said, with the newer cars and the lane departure and the drive itself and the this and the that's and the there's so much technology that takes away from the driving experience. It kind of makes driving boring.
It really does. It's kind of a ride along experience as more than a driving experience. Right. They kind of take the tactile. Well, hell, I mean, a lot of these vehicles, especially some of these newer Toyotas, there's not a mechanical connection between you and that vehicle anywhere anymore. Even the brakes are drive-by-wire. It used to be, you would think that, there's some things like steering and in the end brakes that should always have to have a one-to-one manual connection. You know what I mean? Like, they don't, right? That's why for a while there in the news you were hearing about these newer model Toyotas just taking off on the highway. They would some kind of a firmware problem, and they were all fly-by-wire. You couldn't. Once the computer wigged out, it would just continue to accelerate, and there was nothing you could do about it but ride along. And there was so many terrifying 911 calls and stuff that I've listened to that they were like, these people are like, I don't know what to do. It just keeps going faster and faster and faster until usually they end up crashing off the end of the highway somewhere. And that's terrifying. You know what I mean?
Oh, and it really is. And it's, I hate to say this, but you're seeing more and more of that coming. Was it I just seen something popped up, was it a couple weeks back? Tesla hit a house. There was nobody in the car. Tesla hit a house. The guy comes out. He's filming the car. And he calls the cops, and he's like, hey, this car just hit my house. And they're like, okay, we'll send somebody out. He was like, okay, well, there's no rush because, there's nobody in the car. And he was like, okay. Well, all of a sudden, a tow truck pulls up. And he was like, starts hooking to the car. And the guy's like, hey, man, the cops are on their way. And he was like, yeah, I got to get this car out of here. And he was like, well, did the cops call you? And he's like, no. The car itself alerted somebody that it was in an accident. And this tow truck was dispatched to go get this car. And he was trying to beat the cops getting there to take the accident report or whatever to hide the fact that the auto-driving car decided to drive itself into a house.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And I'm like,
I tell you what, I'm terrified. My truck has parallel park and all kinds of it'll drive itself, and it's like, no, not today, devil. I don't trust it for anything because there's no way to say that. It's I don't know. It's going to be your liability no matter what happens. So you're probably better off just steering your own vehicle.
Getting that computer assist garbage is it is nice. Don't get me wrong. Ashley, my wife, she had an issue with her daily, and they gave us a new Honda HRV or something because she has a crossover, so it was a similar car or whatever, and it had, at the time, she smoked cigarettes, so she couldn't drive the rental car. So I drove it, and it had the lane assist, and it had the, the self-correcting and all that stuff. And I tested it a couple of times, and I was like, this is way smarter than it needs to be. Like, you're running along, and it's like, you're not over the line yet, but the car senses that you're getting close to the line, so it's like letting you know it's. And I'm like, oh, okay. I
literally had to fight with my truck a couple of times because I wanted to go over. I wanted to change lanes, and it wouldn't let me.
Yeah, that's
like,
or it was the adaptive cruise control. I was running, I had the cruise control set 55 or whatever it was set at, and I was coming up, and I had plenty of room. And the lane, it went from one lane to two lanes. And I didn't get my turn signal on time, and it hit the brakes. And I was probably 10 car lengths back. But it sensed that I was going to run into them if I didn't change lanes or slow down. So it sucked the cruise control down. As soon as I turned the cruise control back, or turned the turn signal on, it kicks back on. And now I can go around the car. And I'm like, that's going to get somebody hurt.
Right, for sure.
Like, you're cruising along, just, enjoying life, and all of a sudden the car decides that you're doing wrong, and it makes a lane change, or it shoves you or whatever, and you're not expecting it, because why would you?
right, for sure.
But
I don't know, man. But as far as the car industry goes, like I've just always been into the custom cars, and I work in the body shop industry, a couple of different times, and I would get frustrated because I wanted to be shaving door handles and doing fun custom stuff, and that just wasn't the bread and butter for these body shops. They didn't even want to do that kind of work. They just wanted to repair Toyota Camry bumpers all day long, and that was the bread. That's what they wanted to do, and I hated that, and so I started. Of course, I always kind of, just like everybody else, screwed around with my own installations and install. I've loved subs and stuff like that. My whole life growing up, and so I've always, went through my fair share of Jimmy rigging stuff and using house speakers and all the embarrassing things that everybody did. I did. And then, that's what I realized is, hey, this is what I want to do. The custom lighting and the custom car audio and the builds and stuff like that. This is what I want to do because it's a scalable business that I know is that I've seen a hole in the industry. Customer service was not the greatest. I always felt like every time I went into an electronics store of any kind, whether it be like Best Buy or a custom stereo shop or whatever, the salesman always went out of their way to make you kind of feel like, well, they were selling something to you. You felt like you were always buying steak oil, and I can't tell you how many times I felt like afterwards, after I purchased something, like I had that kind of buyer's remorse because I kind of got pushed in a direction I didn't want to go, and I didn't, not necessarily happy with my purchase. Didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And so long story short, after, spending some troubled years growing up, I had transitioned into, I owned a repossession company for some time. I started working for a company where I did the automotive repossessing for several years, and in concurrence with doing other automotive customizing. I ran a body shop out of my garage for a little while and did a lot of custom paint and body work for just the different people in the area, and then I did the whole mobile 12-volt thing for a while. That was just because of lack of startup funds, and I felt you feel victimized when you go into those places though, and that's really all they are. They're just trying to get you to spend every nickel you can, and I knew that there had to be a more honest business plan than that. And so when I finally had enough and I left the corporate industry of working for these types of places, I opened my own with the idea that we were going to sell customers what they need and not what we need to sell them. And we're going to run an honest, moral business. And we're going to we're going to put our employees first, and we'll really put our customers first, and our employees a close second, to the customer experience, and before ourselves. And so, and that's what we did here at Modified. We developed kind of an out of the box type of joint, and none of my employees here are paid in commission. We're all paid hourly rates so that we can build quality, not quantity. I don't want my installer to think if he gets his jobs done faster, he'll be able to be able to take more jobs in. And no, man, that's not the way it is. I want to pay my guys very well. I want them to take as long as the job needs. I want to make sure that we're doing these jobs once. And I want the customer to feel great about the experience. I'll give you one example. There was a customer that came in when we first opened this business at our old location, and he had this busted Chevy pickup truck. It was dirty. It was muddy. It was full of trash. Back of it was full of tools and ladders and stuff. And he came in and he said, "Hey man, I need to get some speakers from this truck." He said, "Look, I drive this truck to the work site. I'm in construction. All I want to do is get up in the morning, drink my coffee, and listen to my talk radio on the way to the job site. And that's what I want. I don't need this. I'm not trying to set any stereo records. I'm not trying to steal anybody's girlfriend at a stoplight." He's like, "I just want to listen to my music." Yep. And so one of the things that we do here is we ask a lot of qualifying questions. We get to know our customer, and we develop what their real needs are. So we'll never, ever, ever start here. The typical format for sales in the electronics businesses, you start high, mm-hmm. and you try to sell down low so that you can sell them the most expensive products possible. And that's not the way we operate here. We find out what your needs are, and we directly serve those needs. You said what he said to me. So now, to me, what I heard was, "Hey man, I need your best entry-level pair of speakers that you have that are just going to be a little bit better than stock. I don't need anything." In fact, he would have been okay. That guy would have been okay with, probably factory replacements if that was possible. So we want to get as close to that, as possible. Entry-level speakers, installation on his vehicle. I think we got him out the door for like $165, right? That was with labor, installing installing one pair of speakers, selling one pair of speakers, and everything out the door. I think it was less than $200. And he said, "Let's do it." So we did it. We got him out the door. He brought back in the quote that he had got from Custom Sounds. And the quote that he had got from Custom Sounds was for $747. I mean, they literally quoted this guy a pair of Focal speakers for a work truck that they didn't listen to anything that guy had to say. And so the moral of the story is that this guy was stinking super happy. He got what he asked for. He felt as if he was heard, and that's a big deal as a customer. Yes. He did not he was super satisfied with his purchase price and then the quality he was happy with. So unbeknownst to me, about a week later, this same guy shows up on a badass Harley, like an Ultra. It was like, big fairing, street glide kind of bike, yeah. and brand new bike that he just bought. And he's like, "I'm not happy with the audio work." And he goes, "There's something I wanted to tell you guys." And he was like, he praised us. He's like, "You guys treated me the way I want to be treated, and he's like, the one thing about me is I work hard, but I also play hard." And we did probably close to $7,500 worth of work on his Harley. And then we did his personal truck, and then we did his pontoon boat. And that dude had, $250,000 like tri-hull pontoon boat that was just immaculate. And then we put all Kicker Marine. I mean, this guy spent big money. I think all in all, with $150 that guy spent on his work truck, that guy probably spent an easy $20,000 with us in the next month coming after that.
And if you would have sold him, and if you would have sold him on something or overcharged him on a quote unquote basic job, you may never have realized, because, you know, especially in the auto industry, whether it's audio, tint, wheels, everything like that, or small little things, you know, a little mobile mechanic even. If you oversell a job, that may be the last time you got them. But if you can get them fixed up at a decent price that they feel comfortable with, you give them what they ask for. Now, when they do want to splurge a little bit for better quality, you're the first name on that list. And as long as you continue that, you know, the best for all small business or growing businesses is positive word of mouth. And it's not necessarily what they say, because I've talked to people and it's like, hey, how, you know, oh, you so-and-so did that, right? Yeah. Well, how'd they do? It was all right. That doesn't mean you're happy with it. Whereas you go talk to another guy and it's like, hey, did so-and-so do that? Yeah. How was it? Man, it was awesome. I got exactly what I wanted. That's the guy I want to go talk to.
Yeah, I mean, we do like you know, the customer experience. We spend a lot of money on our, you know, making sure that our waiting room has super nice furniture in it, so that when when a person's waiting 3 hours for a remote starter, that they have a comfortable place with Wi-Fi, you know, air conditioned, comfortable seating. You know, they're not sitting in some plastic office chair from a doctor's office, you know, right. That kind of thing. Like that's horrible. And then you know, down to just you know, making sure that they're getting what they need. You know, I've actually told customers that, hey, I don't think that realistically we can meet your expectations. And so, like, I am much more the type of person that would rather reserve that relationship, because first impressions are everything. And if of course I could probably cobble something together for anyone, but if I don't feel that I can adequately serve you with my standards, it's going to meet your expectations, then there's no point in taking this relationship. I would rather just say, hey, I think that either you need to save up some more money, or you need to realign your realistic expectations of what you can accomplish with what you got going on. I mean, case in point, man, I want some bumps, bro. I want to knock the trunk off this bitch. I want everybody to hear me coming. Man, I got about a $500 budget. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you can't afford the speakers and the amp.
No, I can get you. I can more than likely get you into like a very small entry level bass package. You know, for like for I may be able to, like, $600 or $700 get you out on the road with some bass. However, at what cost? Right. So if you're telling me that you're already going to be the guy that's cranking it up and doing this and doing that, I already know that if I put you into something that is entry level, you're probably going to blow it up before you even get out of the parking lot. And so we educate all of our customers on top of that. We let them know that, hey, listen, there's only one way that a speaker blows up. As far as a burned coil, you know, a burned up, locked up woofer, there's only one way that happens, and that's from human interaction. That's from you mistreating it. Now, a speaker can fail in different ways, like the pencil leads can come unsoldered, or you can have a separation of the cone with it glued in the hole, and you've got a flappy cone or a spider suspension in the middle that's come unglued and is making noises. Those are all warrantyable offenses. However, subwoofer is typically not warranted if you burn that thing crunchy. Right. And so we spend a lot of time when we do our amp and sub installs to properly tune things, so that they're not only tuned safe, but that you're going to get longevity out of your product. And then we tell the customer, hey, look, here's the deal. Realistically, you're only going to get clean volume about 3/4 of the way up on that radio. Anything after that is just going to be producing distortion. Distortion is going to kill the speaker. If you come back here with blown up speakers, you know, now, and I have been wrong by thinking that a person could handle the responsibility. And so it's like, well, listen, man, I can get you this NTX package or I can get you this a Sterling Vega package, or I can get you these packages for about your budget. However, you're not gonna be doing any of those things you talked about. You're not gonna be setting any world records or stealing girlfriends or any of those things. You're gonna have some base, and they blow them up, and I make their judgment call and put it out the door. I offer them a way out, so I'll say, look, here's the deal. Obviously, this failed. Okay, so either I failed you and advising you for the right product, or you weren't being realistic to what your wants were, and you're not getting enough base for what your personal needs are. So if that's the case, these are your subs unless you're willing to upgrade. If you're willing to upgrade, I'll take these back. I'll figure out a way to eat the shit on the other end. I'll warranty it with my guy. Luckily, we do so few warranties because of the way we spend the time with our customers that we don't have a lot of failures. So when I do call my customer or when I do call my distributor and say, hey man, I've got a situation here. Could you take care of me? Yeah, no problem, man, because I don't make a habit of it. So they're we're not one of those shops that just pushes anything out the door and has 1,000 warranties coming back, because we just don't. We carry quality products, so we don't have those issues, and then we do quality work, and we, like I said, we validate every single customer process before we do it. I've had to tell some people, hey man, I just don't really feel comfortable selling you these because I know that you're going to destroy them, and I'm not trying to be difficult but I'm just being real. That I would rather
you're going to be back here in 6 months. Looking at me, so let's not start that here. Either come back when you can afford something that is going to fit your needs, or let's figure out a way to make, you have to find the right fit. And also, to all small businesses, we need to keep that in mind when we're talking to people, because as soon as you sell them on a reality that's a falsehood, you're setting up not only yourself as the small business for them to come back and be mad or upset that it didn't meet their standards, but it's also across the board. You get the shady run of the night whatever guy who screws them on a job, and now all of us have to eat that. One bad apple spoils the bunch.
No, and Guy, I have to tell you, man, it happens so often where we get these shade trees that do sell them whenever the hell they need to sell them to get them down the road, and we fix a lot of those problems, and like, it's funny though, we do get a fair amount of customers, and then they'll come in and we'll tell them what we have to tell them, and they'll say okay, and then they'll leave, and they didn't get the answer that they wanted, so they'll find somebody out there to tell them what they want to hear, and they always come back with man, I let this dude in town, or I let this guy, or my uncle said, like that kind of thing. He's like, yep. Now I got this thing tore apart out here, and I got no sound, and I'm like, we love being the hero, so we'll bring it in, and we'll bring it in, and we'll fix the situation, and we'll make it better than it was beforehand, and we'll rekindle that relationship.
Right.
Some people are responsive to that. Some people seem to never learn, and they just don't understand. It's heartbreaking, man, when there's been nights that my wife and I have not slept well because we were, the economy was taking a poop, or we're going through a slow time, or this or that, and then customers are constantly bringing us in things that they purchased online, and we have to explain to them, like, look, here's the deal. These products that you're buying are protected by a MAP program, and that MAP program makes it possible. And I'll ask them, I'll say, just out of curiosity, why did you purchase that from them and not from us? And they'll say often, well, I just assumed that I could keep it online. I'm like, well, that's the problem. You made an assumption, because I could. What would you think that if I told you that I could sell you that same set of speakers that you have right there in your hand for the exact same amount that you just paid for and waited online? I have them right here, right now.
Right.
And you could support a local business in the process. Mm-hmm. And, some people, they're ashamed. some people don't care, and they just don't care, and they, I have some customers that have been loyal customers for 10 years or more that are consistent online shoppers. And wow, I got a perfect example. I got a person and that is we do a new shirt design every year. So we do a limited edition run of, and a lot of times they'll have my 54 on it, or the car had the 64, or we were running those. But this last shirt run, we did a public competition. Get your local legend, get your shirt, or get your vehicle on the back of the shirt. And we did a competition where people would like, share, that whole thing for exposure.
Yep.
And in the end, we decide and pick who was going to win the opportunity to have their digitized version of their vehicle on a custom logo for our company. And we had so many overwhelming results. We have a guy in town. His name's Pepsi Joe. He's just a beautiful human being. He's battling with Parkinson's disease. And this guy is just a hot rodder through and through. And he built a custom Volkswagen Beetlebug gasser. And he built his own custom chassis. We originally call him Pepsi Joe. He's like this huge Pepsi Cola fan, and he has a huge Pepsi collection, and all the guy drinks is Pepsi, and you would think that he was sponsored, and he's not. But he built this gasser, and if you look up Pepsi Joe Umberzat, he's a big deal. Hot Rod Power Tour, love him. He keeps getting all kinds of rewards and stuff. He's one of my good friends who lives here in town. He's on my shirt. We've got this local legend now. Her name is Annie. She's 80 years old, and she travels the country in a 57 Cadillac doing burnout competitions.
Oh, yes. I know that, yes. Every time her videos pop up, I watch them. That's awesome.
She's the main character on the back of my new shirt. And then there was an LS swapped square body that belonged to a police officer here in town, who also has his own kind of beginning YouTube channel called Max Boneyard Build or something like that, and MAC, Max Boneyard Build, and Mac breaks my heart because I love Mac. I like him as a friend, and then I support his channel. I'm one of the only local people that supports his channel, and because there were so many awesome people that I put three cars on the same shirt. I put the Bug, a Hot Rod Granny, and I put Max square body on there. And then I go back and watch his channel, and he's talking about, he's wearing my shirt, but he's talking about how he bought all these LED lights online, and he bought a replacement car stereo for for his son's truck online, and all this. It's how it's so easy just to go on to Crutchfield and purchase these things. And it was like so fucking hurtful. Man, I picked you because you're a local law enforcement agent. You've been a buddy, and you've been a car buddy, and you've been a customer of ours for some time. And then I see you're telling your YouTube channel to purchase their products online. It's like, wow, man. I said, and I told him, I was like, I was studying those products, and we had, I even my younger days, communication was a problem for me. So I try to communicate very well and communicate my expectations to people and our relationships. And I said, hey man, I supported you in your venture, and I even put you on my shirt. Like I would have just accepted, hey man, if you're in the St. Louis area, always stop into your mom and pop's stereo shop and give them a shot first. But if you can't, then purchase online. But so then there was that one time, and I thought, okay, we're going to correct that issue. That's no big deal. It's just an oversight because we live in a digital world, and I get it. And maybe he thought he could get a better deal, and I understand that. But then after I said something to him, he was really been at a point to come around a little bit more, and so I could tell. Okay, he felt like he felt like he owed me an apology, but he didn't, and so he that kind of thing. Well, then his son got a new vehicle, and he was like, man, and he even fluffed me up. He came and he's like, I told him as soon as I got it, man, the first thing I wanted to do was get it up here to Shawn, get the windows tinted, man. I wanted to get it up here right away. He's like, I told Dad it was the first thing I wanted to do was get up here to you and get the windows tinted. And then I spent probably, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour talking to him about all the car audio on the floor. He was like ready to, he wanted to make, he was going to come back. He wanted to get some subs. That was going to be his next purchase. And we talked about the JL products, and we talked about, you know, Memphis products, and we talked about a lot of options and cost points. And JL is another one of those controlled companies that the only people that can sell it online, like Crutchfield or Sonic Electronics, have to sell it at an agreed map price so that
right.
we can all have an even playing field. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't change the value of the product. And I'm watching his newest episode. No. But again, it was just the loveliness of social media. So his mom had posted something about his birthday and yada yada yada, and how he had saved up for his own money to buy this big parents are about speaker boxes, big giant subwoofer box. And I'm watching his video on his page of him unwrapping the exact JL box that I showed him on my floor. And he talked about how she was so proud of him that he saved his money and bought this on his own. And yet he didn't buy it for me.
All right.
And so I guess sometimes it's tough to be a car guy, to be in the community, and to also be a business owner, because I cannot be so. It's hard not to get your feelings hurt when people don't do business with you, even though there's no obligations to.
At least give me a
much
shot.
more. I put in and to know, you already know that you already know that you couldn't wait to get here and get your windows tinted and all these things. And I understand that his dad he won't spend a lot of money on installations because his dad likes to do low budget, do it yourself type YouTube videos. And I get that, and I understand that 100%. But there's no reason why you couldn't bring me up there with you a little bit. You know, right. You couldn't give me the opportunity to even give you a deal, because I didn't even get the opportunity to even offer them a discount, you know?
Right.
And often these younger kids, they come in, I really try to take care of them because, again, something that we touched on a little bit earlier, but we didn't really go into any detail about, was the fact that we have to be available to these children to give them a positive outlet in life. And hopefully, if they have a good experience with one of us at a car show, because I've seen some, you know, being in the lowriding world, you know, like in the custom car world, I've seen a lot of jerks, and I've seen a lot of people that are like, get away from my car, and you know, that kind of thing, and that really stinks, because like that's an impression that'll stay with kids for the rest of their lives. And we want to promote this industry. We want to plant new seeds, and we want to foster healthy, productive industry, you know, interests in the automotive industry, or it's just going to completely die.
Well, and eventually we're going to need these kids to help us foster our builds in the end, because at some point,
right,
I'm not going to be the guy out there swinging a motor if I need a motor in a car. You know, unfortunately, or cramming yourself into a trunk to put audio in, or wiring, or, you know, and there's so many different facets that you can kind of get in. You know, you can do whatever you want to do, and, you know, on your social media, you know, the digital world, you know, also with that, I want to say that, you know, support the people that support you. Because at the end of the day, you know, I would rather do something with you than give Crutchfield money, even if it's the same price. Just because you're doing, one, you're pouring back into the car community, whether it's local car community, like where you're at, or, what we're trying to do with the nationwide, and also you have something to do with that. And not trying to cut off that topic, but with our cruising, I have to say, one, I would love to invite you, Betty White, on that road trip would be awesome, or any of your cars. But bring your buddies, whatever. And if anyone else needs any information, there's a Facebook group. You can go to the Hot Rod Hangout page. There's a Facebook event page. And also, we just opened up, it's GOADYS, stands for Drive Your Shit, or Get Out and Drive Your Shit. There's a group, so if you can't do this year's, you can stay on the page for future road trips. Also, off the episode, I want to get with you and kind of run down our stops and kind of make sure that we're utilizing or getting the most out of that road trip.
Oh, for sure. Definitely on the Route 66 stuff. I'll be able to definitely, make sure that you're getting the most out of it. Especially if you ever get to do the Missouri section through the Ozarks and stuff, it's one of my favorites. I'm actually a member of the Preservation Association for the Missouri Route 66, and Illinois does a lot, but they don't do as much as Missouri, and we do a lot of saving, doing crowdfunding for saving neon signs and helping small businesses, mom and pops, get the repairs done necessary to survive and to keep these failing roadside attractions, up and running as much as possible so we can preserve this stuff for the next generation. That's it's the next generation. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal. I've noticed in my business, whenever I was 16 years old, I was hanging out at the stereo shops, man. I was a stereo shop junkie. I loved what was going on. These cars they were building, and back then installers were building every box they left down there and everything. And it was just so neat to see the start and finish of these projects and stuff. And I look at my shop and there's none of those groupies. Like, we were constantly getting run off from the two stereo shops in town when I was a kid, and we bounced back and forth from shop to shop, and eventually we had to where we would hang out in the back with them and stuff, and it was a lot of fun, and that fostered careers. I mean, like where I'm at now is doing this, and I couldn't imagine if I wasn't allowed to shadow some of those installers back then and ask stupid questions and get on their nerves. We don't have any of that. So anytime that a young man, like we have an apprentice right now, his name's Caleb, he's being trained in our window tint department, and this kid is like, he's a savant. He's learning. I mean, he's just learning so fast, and he's already becoming very, very good and detail oriented. And the kid tried to get into several different shops, and nobody would give him a chance. And because he's 19 years old, and he had went to Walmart and worked in their oil change, and he wanted to get a year and at least some kind of a shop under his belt so that he could use it as a caveat to get into other shops. And there wasn't a lot, nobody gave him a chance. And he came in here and he just displayed an eager want to learn, and like, how can I tell him no? So I said, look, man, here's the deal. If you're willing to give me something, I'll give you something. If you are willing to give me, because you came in here with no experience, and I need experienced workers. I said, however, I am willing to train some stuff. You come in here and give me a week of your life. You give me 1 week, as if you worked here and you were getting paid. You give it to me. I promise you, not only will I compensate you in the end if you make it through that week, then I'll offer you a full-time position here, and the sky's the limit at that point. And he came in every day, yes sir, no sir, to my wife, yes ma'am, no ma'am. Like, I mean, just paying attention. And when Thomas, my window tender, would tell him how to do something, he would not only just do that, but he would ask, why are we doing that? He wants to understand it forward and backwards. Right. So and Thomas, the guy that is my window tender, he came here the same way. He worked for a tire shop. He loved the industry. We taught him window tinting. That was the way in the door. TJ, my longest employee, he's been here for 12 years of the almost 12 and a half years we've been in business. He came in the door with no skills whatsoever, and he runs my shop when I'm not here now. He's our production manager. He makes sure that everything is getting done. He makes sure that all the products are coming in that we order. He handles runs the place when Jill and I we need to visit. So we've had some people come and go, but we've got this core crew that are just the greatest kids and guys in the world. And Thomas is my window tinter. He's training this new Caleb kid, and he's the future of our business. And these guys are all. Then I just have the greatest group of employees that you could ask for right now. And we went through a pretty scary time a couple of weeks ago where a kid walked out on us and gave us no notice. And I mean, there was customers waiting, and all of us, including myself and my wife, and we did some overtime to wash the front while TJ jumped in there and was doing it. So TJ wasn't an installer. He's very handy. And obviously knows our standards and knows what we do, but we would get in there together and knock these things out, and we survived until we finally picked up one of the best installers in the country, and we have a guy working for us now that is an absolute the head of our 12-volt shop, he is absolutely a legend in the area. His name is Chris Hanley. He's a project. He also does drift racing. He's 50 years old. He's been in the industry as long as I have, and his nickname is Grandpa Drift. So Chris Grandpa Drift Hanley. He does all the full custom builds where you've got fiberglass kick panels and painted fiberglass and lighted this and motorized that. I mean, we've got the guy that's able to do that, and all because we just had faith and we stayed steady and we kept working. And during a time where we should have been really failing and rescheduling, we kept the faith. And we kept pushing the one ads, and we came to work every day, and it all worked itself out. So I mean, like I feel like now, quite honestly, that if you put down good energy in the world, good energy will come back.
Yes,
if
sir.
you put down, karma's a real thing, dude.
Oh yeah.
And some people might atone it to different religions or this or that. I look at it as just a simple positive energy in the world, like period. And any of that could be. Let's be honest. Like the real root of any religion whatsoever, whether it be Christian, Hinduism, Muslim, Jewish. Like any of those religions, any of them, the basis of those religions are all supposed to be love and acceptance and doing the right thing, right?
Yep.
So if you take that out, if you take that away from all of them and you just do that anyway, like, does it really matter who you're worshiping? I don't think it does. I think everybody can have their own higher power. For me, my goal is just doing right in the universe, and the universe will give back to you. Now, it may not give back to you on the schedule that you expect. It may not give back to you, it seems like sometimes the universe waits until the last possible minute to bless us with a solution. But it always comes through because we have pure intentions. We treat our customers honestly. If we do wrong by a customer, we make it right. It doesn't matter what it costs. It doesn't matter if we break a panel or we do something like that. It does not matter. We do what's morally right, and we always get taken care of in the long run because, that word of mouth thing. We don't spend any money on advertising. $0 on advertising. I don't put up billboards. I don't put ads in papers. I don't do any of those things. We do our free stuff that we do on Facebook, and the rest of it is all community word of mouth and Google reviews that are unbiased. That's it. That's 100% it.
What is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's trying to get into, and it could be the business side, it could be audio side, or just cars in general?
Well, I think we could even broaden it to anything. Like if you've got a dream to be a banker or any kind of small business attributes, don't listen to the naysayers, man. Like, do your diligence and give it a shot. I have this. Our plaza here that we're a part of, where my new shop is, a shopping plaza that was big in the back of the 50s and 60s, and of course it went into disrepair and almost completely was abandoned, and then a gentleman about 6-7 years ago purchased a place and then did this completely badass renovation and remodel of every single store in the little plaza. And you never see these things come back. And he only put in businesses that were, small, mom and pop, like he didn't step on anybody's toe. It's just a fantastic place to be. But he opened up an office space, and that office space it's like in a big city, it would be like a shared office space where like you could have an office for your small business, all under one roof there's 10 other offices, but you have your own private office. It's got a little waiting area and a place where you can have Wi-Fi to do your homework. Like there's different packages you can be a part of, but it's basically like a place to go for kids after school if they need to do homework and have Wi-Fi, or a small business to get a start, and a conference room that you can use. It's there for everyone to use by schedule, sign up. And they were doing business seminars over there. And they asked me to come talk to kids about business. And it's pretty funny because I had to speak after a lady that was speaking traditional business. And traditional business is what we talked about before. The start high, sell low, the typical ins and outs of business. And I don't agree with any of them. So I would get up there and I would talk to these kids and I'd say, first of all, she makes a lot of valid points, and maybe if you're selling insurance or something, that's the way to go. But I don't want you to think that that's the only way. And so I'm going to tell you something different, and mine is put the people that get you here first. Make sure that your guys are paid well before you're paid. Make sure that the customers are always number one. But as far as achieving any goal, it's a little thing that I learned from a motivational speaker called massive imperfect action. Okay, massive imperfect action, MIA. And what MIA means is that everybody's used to achieving goals in an order. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say that. Let's say number one, is you have the capital to invest in a business. Number 2 is you take that money and you try to find a place, and you all these things in order. Now, I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that if you're doing the right thing, if you've done your diligence and you know that it's going to work in the community, that you've studied your demographic, your business plan is a solid one, and you would say you need to take action to achieve those goals. And it doesn't matter what order you do those in necessarily. So let's say, for instance, and this is how a lot of things have worked out for me in life, and I can give you a couple different examples. So I started looking for a place before I had the money to be able to acquire that place. It's a part of realizing the journey that you're on. It's a part of making things real. And even if it's just a matter of driving down the street and saying, hey, you know what? That's where my business is going to be. Now, how do I get a hold of that person and find out what their wants and needs are? And then going from there. And then you contact that person and you start a relationship with them, and you find out, hey man, they don't really give a shit about that building. They bought that. When I started my building that I started in this company in, I rented it originally for $600 a month, man. And like, it was a small shop. It was about a 3,000 square foot, no, about 1,500 square foot shop. It had enough room to hold maybe 4 or 5 cars in it total packed in there. But there was only one way in and one way out. So if you had to stop what you were doing and move cars on the way, it was very inefficient. However, the guy that I rented the building from initially, he bought that building in a group of properties that was like 50 properties, and he didn't even want the damn building. But in order to get the deal on all the other rental houses, he had to take the building in the package deal. So he's like, I don't even care, man. $500 a month. Now that's so much more realistic. And I've got a number and our goal is, okay, man. So now I found the place. I know where I'm going to go and I can afford it. And now let's do some other things. I start looking for where I'm going to order my products from, and this and that, who I'm going to take on this journey with me. So it doesn't matter what order you do those numbers in. I don't care what anybody tells you, because dreaming is how things happen, man. And just like this podcast, you may have started with zero budget. You may have started with, you don't got some big fancy fucking studio and all the most expensive microphones and everything else. And you started, I caught one of you from a social media post and just said, "Hey man, I'm looking for guests."
Yep.
And it's like, you know what? I love talking. I love talking about this industry. I love that podcast. I'm going to reach out to this guy. You know what I mean? And now, buddy, I think me and you have a chance of being pretty good damn friends. You know what I mean?
And I've said that, and my wife jokes about it all the time, that I have a giant group of friends that I've never physically met. And
sure.
It's because, like you said, whether you found me because I made a post, a bunch of people I've made similar posts previously, or connections of, I'll have somebody on and, "Oh, do you know so-and-so?" "No, but I'd like to talk to them." "Oh, okay." Or, "Hey, or there's another podcast in Texas, shout out Hometown Hot Rodder. They helped us get started when we first, we were a couple months in, and they found us, and it was just connections. And the car community in itself, I mean, I hate to do the cliche, like, it's who and I've always said, like, I don't need, I made a post today, we're looking for help for the build, for the trip, for the podcast, for all that. And I said, I don't want free stuff. I want to work with people. I want to talk to people. I want to meet people that not necessarily, I hate relationships where it becomes a tit for tat.
So you should be able to identify with what I'm saying, match
yes,
and perfect action, because you just didn't realize you're already doing it. And that's the thing. And
that's the thing.
I can tell you're a dreamer. You're a dreamer like me, and like, so hey man, I want to do this thing. I don't know how in the world I'm going to be able to do it, but I want to do this thing. And I'm going to reach out and see if I can't make some connections that makes it possible for me to be able to do this thing. And I did the same. Well, I did the same thing. Well, I hosted. I do like. I was a promoter for events, and so like I did stand up. So we used to have all of our comedy clubs are over in St. Louis, and a lot of us Illinoisians, we don't really like to go over to St. Louis. It's just like the news says it is. It's not a very safe place to be most of the time, and it's just we like it over here, man. So a friend of mine, we do a lot of like team building exercises with our crew, and so the guys from around us down, and I contacted a comedy club in Illinois once, and I said, "Hey man, you got any free tickets to some event coming up? I'd like to take all my guys out for a couple of beers or whatnot, and just kind of let our guards down and just kind of relax a little bit." And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely, man. I got a little comedy thing coming up." And he hooked us up. Well, once he did it, we all fell in love with it. We all started going back. Well, they got in financial trouble, and ultimately we're going to have to. We're going to have to close. So I was bummed out, man. I got to know these people, and I really like them, and I really I fell in love with like the stand up comedy industry, and because who doesn't like to laugh? You know what I mean? Okay. And so I'm like, man, how can I bring this to our area in Illinois without opening up a comedy club? Like, how can I do this? And just much like I started Modified Auto Sound without a pot to piss in, I started this whole Riverbend comedy series the same exact way. I knew there was a void and a hole for it. And then there's all these venues around here, like Madison's Tea Room, and they do weddings. They have a stage and where they do wedding parties and stuff. And most of the time, those damn buildings are empty. Yep. If they're not doing a wedding, they're not making any money. And then there was the same thing with this facility here, a ballroom in Alton, and I'm like, what if I was able to utilize these people's stale floor time, put together a show, hire some of the most well-known local comedians that are touring the Funny Bone or the Helium comedy clubs. These are big names. And what if I can get those people, treat them better than they're being treated anywhere else, and develop this relationship? And so right away, that's what I did. I found out right away that comedians are treated very, very poorly. And they work in a lot of dives and night bars where they don't get, even though they're promised, they end up not getting paid at the end of the night because they quote unquote didn't sell enough tickets or didn't sell enough beer. And that's ridiculous because no one should ever have to do what they do for a living and not get paid, especially when some of these comedians are only working for like $50 for their 10 minutes or $100 for their appearance for the night or something like that. Like, I mean, these guys are working for pennies and they're making the people a lot of money. So I said, you know what, I'm going to roll out the red carpet for these people. I'm going to get a name for being the opposite of a sleazeball promoter. And then before you know it, and this is exactly what happened, man. Like I went to a venue and I said, look, here's the deal. I want to host a stand-up comedy show here. It'll be once a month and one show a month, and it's going to be a full 2-hour event. It's going to be an opener, a closer, an MC, and then a headliner, a bigger name act they'll do about 45 minutes, and then the next person down will do, they'll introduce, that kind of thing. And I'm like, how does it sound if you give me the venue for free? However, I bring you 200 drinking and eating customers, and I allow you to keep 100% of the food and alcohol sales. I keep my ticket sales, and we're all happy. Right away, they were like, "That's fantastic! Let's do this," because we all know that the money's made in food and liquor.
Oh yeah.
We all know that. So it's going to be on them.
That's how we did our cruise in, and it was successful.
I said that's exactly how you can make money at your own hands, and yada yada yada. So the first show I ever did, same thing. Don't listen to any of the naysayers. I had so many people, including my wife, telling me, Shawn, I just don't think this is going to work in the area. I don't want you to get your feelings hurt if nobody buys tickets or nobody shows up. Bro, I did not put a cap on my first show. And my first show, I sold 360 tickets to my first show, and people were hooked. And I did 20 sold out shows from that point on. Now I did realize that 350 plus people were too many people to entertain at one point. So we cut it back to 200 tickets per show. And then I ended up having to do, with a big name, I used to have to do 2 shows.
Yeah. And that's what we did with our cruise in, was I went to a restaurant and basically said, hey, what is your slow day? And he told me, and I said, okay, I want to do a cruise in your parking lot. And just put it out like, hey, we're going to have lunch. It's free, not charging, nothing, yada, yada, yada. There's one requirement. And it was, what's the requirement? You have to go in. I don't care if you buy a pitcher of beer. I don't care if you go in and buy a sweet tea. I don't care if you go in and have lunch. But go in and support the business because we're taking their parking lot. And the first time it was, it was me and Ashley and our core little group, my mom and dad, and probably had 10 cars.
Yeah.
Guys oh man, I said, put it on the schedule because they have a calendar on the back of the menu. I said, put it on your menu. He's like, okay. I said, still nothing. I'm not charging you nothing. I don't want nothing. I just want a place that we can park and yada, yada, yada. The next month it was 30 cars. I said, okay. Well, then it was 50 cars. And then it was like, hey man, you're kind of I get it. Y'all are filling our parking lot, but y'all are taking away from the customers. We need you in the field. I said, okay, that's going to probably lower the amount of people that come. I said, but we can work something out. And it worked. We did it for about 5 months until the restaurant owner got greedy. And then he wanted to charge me. And I'm like, I'm not charging them. But, you know, the relationships that we make, whether it's I've made connections, non-car related connections that have led me to a car connection, whether it's parts or a question or knowledge, because, you know, I'll be honest, the shop that the Model A was being built in, the shop that the 54 got the motor pulled in, and the start of the Cadillac was a carport. You know, I had a paved concrete slab with a carport on top of it, and that was where I had a little room for my tools, and when I could afford it, I would go buy better. You know, if a job required a tool, I would go buy it. And then when we moved, I figured out that I had a lot of shit that I acquired. But right now, the Cadillac is parked on a tarp underneath a canvas tarp or canvas canopy, and it's next to the paint booth. That's where it's getting worked on. You don't necessarily need the big shop to be able to have cool stuff. And also, no one, when they see that car, no one's going to pick it apart and go, oh, well, that was a dirt floor build. Or no one should.
Oh, you should see some of the lowriders that are being built in Cottage Hills, Illinois, coming out of my buddy's garage. Like, these things are Bernie's yellow Impala. It's a 62, I think. It has been in Lowrider magazine. It's been circled. It's been it was featured in the Peterson's like automotive museum as like a part of the Lowrider thing. Like, I mean, and he built that. He built that there, you know, and so yeah, but yeah. So what I was saying as far as advice, massive imperfect action. Don't let the naysayers talk you out of doing something you're passionate about, and just start somewhere. My comedy stuff, I wanted to make sure that no matter what, that when the comedians showed up, if there wasn't one single ticket sold, that their wages were paid. So how can I do that without coming out of pocket? I developed an advertising program for other small businesses to get involved in our flyering and my radio. I would make appearances on the local radio station and all that shit, and they would be a part of it. And eventually, I had this local car lot that was like, I want to sponsor every show fully. So that, you know, it cost me about $500 to produce a show. That would basically pay for all of the wages for the comedians, because if I ask the comedian, hey, typically what do you charge for, your, like, it wouldn't be a headliner, which would be the main guy. Let's say he did like a 20-minute set, and normally I charge about $50 to $75. I would give him $150.
Yeah.
You know, I would pretty much double whatever they told me that they were getting paid on average in the industry, and make sure that money was embedded before they ever even showed up that night. So
well, and that also builds relationships. Like I said, it builds relationships with non-car community, car community, all of that. It brings it all together, and that at the end of the day, that's all we're trying to do is.
Well, it built my local celebrity. It built my local celebrity status up high, because it's a local community, very small local community, and then people seeing you do these positive things, you know me also as the car guy, and so they're like, oh man, you put on those great shows. Here's the other thing I was very, very smart about. When I started the advertisement program, originally I would go around to small businesses and I would offer them, hey, for $50, you know, I can get your logo on the flyers, or whatever. For $100, I get your logo on, or, you know, for this amount of money, we get your logo this size on the flyers, and you'll get mentioned on the YouTube or on the Facebook page. You'll also get mentioned on all of the news stuff that I do, whether it be Channel 4 News, Channel 5 News. I did that on several occasions. The local radio stations and things like that. You get a part of that, and then you get to be in that. And so for small businesses to get any kind of good local advertising, it's expensive. And so for them to get something cheap, they loved it. But then, like I said, finally, the one Carlot was like, no, dude, I want to sponsor once a month. I want to sponsor because the amount of advertising he was getting out of it was huge. And you know, for him, it was big. It was a lot of return because it was money he was spending locally with local people, and it was getting advertised to local people. It wasn't like when you spend your money in a magazine and it goes out, all over the country, but it doesn't really hit your demographic, you know. Yeah. These guys were our demographic. I live in a working community. These were working people. The comedians I hired were all on point with our lifestyle. You know, there were a lot of white trash comedians telling funny white trash tales, and you know, it just really jived with the type of people we deal with. And what I did was I made that if you wanted to buy tickets to my show, you had to come into Modified Auto Sound to purchase your tickets. So people that never knew we existed, or people that cross genres, they had to come in and like, what do all you guys do here? And it turned into the most brilliant snowball ever because we maintained a bunch of. I used to MC every show, and then it got to the point where it was just like, goodness, I believe it or not, I was extremely anxious, and it was exhausting to get up there and put on a mask and act like it didn't bother me that I was standing in front of 100, 200 people, and that kind of thing, and then have to be funny for a few seconds, and then I wasn't getting to enjoy the comedy. But then a bar picked up my last 5 shows. This bar said, "Hey, listen, here's the deal. We don't want you to do. We want to do all the work. We want to buy your show. What is it going to take to have you hire the comedians, you produce the show, but us be 100%?" And I offered him the opportunity just to sponsor it. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want you to have to do anything. I don't want you to first have to do any kind of advertising and stuff. If they take care of it, they're going to extend it. So I used to make about, by the time it was all said and done, I'd make probably $4,000 or $5,000 a show if things went well, and that's what I would profit. And then the money that was brought in for food and beverages, those guys would always make several thousands of dollars themselves. So it was a really good deal. But the end of it, he was like, he offered me $2,000, and which ended up $1,500 in my pocket. And all I had to do was take that $500 extra, and hire the help, and then fucking produce, put the show. I would match comedians according to their personalities, and I was very methodical about the way I put people together. I didn't just throw up any random people, and then but by treating them with respect, I got a positive name, and I didn't have to know any comedians after that. I knew the first few that I got introduced to, but after that, they're all speaking word of mouth. And I'm like, hey man, we'd love to get on stage. I there was a couple of nights where I had cancel, and I had a guy walk out, like, I don't know if you ever heard of the Helium Comedy Club, but it's huge. And they're the ones, they're doing, like, they're hosting, like, professional people like Adam Sandler and fucking, big names like that.
Okay.
And they also have the local people that are coming up, and I had a dude walk away from that to come help me because I treated him so well in the past. It's like, I'm like, wow, you're walking out of a national club to come do my show because I treated you with respect, and that's really the thing. But as far as, like I said, the roundabout answer to your question is massive imperfect action. Just do something. You're doing it. You're doing some of the same things that I'm talking to you about by the idea of coming up with the vinyl wrap for the back of the bus, advertising the people that help you get to where you're going along the way, and hey, I got this dream. I want to make this happen, and I know that it can happen, but I'm going to need your help to make this happen. Crowdfunding is awesome, and it's something that we're able to do now with social media that we weren't able to do when I was younger, and it's a really neat thing. And my buddy Roman Rich, who's a big a big historian and well known for preservation stuff for Route 66. He purchased 2 vintage motels that were going. One was going to get bulldozed, and he completely renovated the whole thing and brought it back to its glory. And it's open now. And he did a lot of that stuff with crowdfunding, and it was really, really neat. People that have, man, we all have passions. We all have various levels of budget, and $1 may not seem like a lot to you, but when you have 5,000 people, donate $1, that's $5,000 now, and that comes together pretty quickly with crowdfunding, and that's how we used to raise a lot of money to restore neon lights for people and things like that, and it's all a part of that massive imperfect action. There's a guy named Michael Gibbons. He's a local, to me, motivational speaker. He's the one that pioneered the whole massive and perfect action, the actual thing, that whole MIA thing. And it's always stuck with me. And it's been the way I've done things my whole life. Like, if I've got a goal, I'm chasing this dually right now, okay? I don't have the $8,500 extra to buy this 1-ton dually. However, it's absolutely in my passion to have it.
Yeah,
I contacted the guy. I know exactly how much he wants for it now, and I'm working towards that goal to get that money together. And it's going to come together, and I will have it before winter. You know what I mean? And I thought all the cool cars I've ever had when I didn't have a budget, that's the way they've all come about. My 64, I made like one of those little fundraiser thermometers, and put it up on the wall, and I went through my things. I sold the Hot Wheels that I didn't need anymore. I finished collections of coolers and pop bottles and all kinds of cool things, and I would get rid of my extras and stuff that I didn't think that I needed or wanted. And I just started adding to it. And before you knew it, I had the money I needed to go buy it from the kid. And I went and bought it, and then the project started, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, you're doing it. You're already doing it. And that's just it. It's go after your dream, make it happen, and with those with cars too. Go get that rust bucket. Go get that car that you've been eyeing. If nobody else believes it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because once you have it's like, man, there were so many years growing up that I didn't have a pot to piss in, and I would go out to my little garage at my house or wherever I was at, and I would just stand on some POS car or work on rust repair, and that car might not have ever got finished, but it gave me something to go out and work towards. Yep.
You need that. You need that little bit of improvement. I mean, I made a video the other day, the Cadillac hasn't made at the amount of progress that I wish I'd be at this point of owning it for a little over a year, but I have to realize, for 90% of the time I've owned it, I had a normal job, and the car for 6 months now, I wasn't even with the car. So now it takes that year of ownership, and I've only really had it in my possession for 7 months, because when it come up here, obviously I was still down in Florida, so I was only able to come up every other weekend and work on it for a day and then go back home.
Yeah.
So, but before we get out of here, where can people find Modified Auto Sound and kind of give them a little bit of pitch? I know we talked about it a little bit throughout the episode, but where can they find
I'll tell you what, man, I'd love to do that. Let me give one more message though, man. Okay. Honest to God, it all boils down to just, if you can do anything in life, do the right thing. And the right thing is not always the easiest thing to do. You know what I mean? It's not. And I honestly, I believe in that whole karma thing. Find you a good soulmate. Like my wife is my best friend. We have been through everything together, and I wouldn't be any. Look, dude, I'm a hustler. Okay, I can go out there in the streets and I can make money. I could fold up money and put it in my pocket, and I could feed us every day. I wouldn't. I don't know that the lights would be paid. I'd have a lot of cool shit if it wasn't for her. but I'd be sitting in dirty underwear in a dark room because
Same here.
she's the voice of reason. She's the practical speaker. She's the reason that my business is so successful. I've got adult ADD. I could tell 20 different stories at the same time.
Yep.
I get distracted easily.
Yeah, I'm definitely the we'll figure it out, and she's definitely the well, let's figure out how to figure it out before we have to figure it out.
The main thing is that Jill and I got together when we didn't have anything at all, and we've been through every single step of life together. I mean, I'm 47 years old. I've been with the same woman for 28 years, man. Can you believe it?
That's back when you used to, or that's the genre of marriages that we don't throw away stuff that's broke, we fix it.
Well, bro, we both kind of spent a lot of time with our grandparents. She was raised 100% by her grandparents. She went through foster care and things like that. Her grandparents raised her, and they were old folks. They survived the Depression. Now my great grandparents survived the Depression. We were all raised with different values but we didn't have anybody to fall back on. We kind of had to do a lot of things on our own. And I tell you what, man, there's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but I get emotional when there's who's that country singer? I think his name is Jamie Johnson. That song that talks about you got this guy's looking at black and white pictures of his grandma and grandpa's telling the story about life with grandma and how things were in the good old days. And I think the key line to that is that if you think that's amazing, hearing these stories now, you should have seen it in color.
Yep.
And it makes me think about all of the things that I went through. Man, listen, I started dating my wife whenever cell phones didn't exist. And that's a crazy thing to think that in our lifespan that we've got a technology that has grown that much from non-existence to us being able to have this conversation right now, wirelessly for all intents and purposes. But I used to have to go to a payphone and drive my car up to a payphone and roll the window up. I found a payphone in town that if she called me on, it would stay on. As long as she could call me back on it. I could call her out on a quarter and it would run out and want to hang up. But if she called me back, it would be on all night long. And I would pull up to it and roll the window up and with the cord in there, and I just sit and talk to her. I had a pager back then, and she would page. Well, how stupid was that? You had a pager, but you had no cell phone, so you had to find a phone. They'd call the person back, and then if they 911'd you, you were paranoid and terrified the whole time. One of those things, man. I'm so grateful for where we are. My wife has been amazing in adapting to this industry and becoming. In the beginning, she wasn't here, and it was tough, man, because I'm not a numbers guy. That's not what I want to do. I want to deal with the customers. I want to tell these stories. I want to get to know them. I want to find out what their needs are. I want to build cool stuff. I want to, like right now, I've got a shop full of projects now. There's probably 4 screenshots back there. We're doing full systems on. I've got let's see what's all back there right now. I've got my car. I've got 3 slingshots, a box truck from an industrial company, a Chevrolet truck that just got not a backup camera, but like an M8 Momentum dash cam, front and rear dash cam. It's ready to be picked up in the morning. And I got another truck in here that we just finished a remote starter on, and they just did the window tint on. It's getting picked up in the morning. So I've got a shop full of I cuss too much, full of dreams and fun stuff, cool stuff here. I mean, these slingshots they're getting ridiculous stereo systems. I mean, these guys go all out. We got overwhelmed with the Jeep community at first, and now it seems like that's kind of scaling out, and these slingshots are so popular around here right now. I can't explain it, but I mean, we do some of the craziest over the top stereo systems and lighting setups on these. Have you had a chance to check out my Facebook page?
Yeah.
For Modified Auto Sound?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think?
It's awesome, man. And like I said, I was never the audio guy, but
Yeah.
the video, the visuals and stuff like that, that's always interested me. And I don't want to say I'm not an audio guy. I just don't understand it, and I've never sat down to try to figure it out. It's always been like, oh, it's got speakers. That's cool as long as it sounds good. And I've always been a sound quality, not a quantity guy, I guess you would.
Oh yeah. So I much prefer. I have a bass heavy habit. I like a lot of bass, but I don't. I'm not that. I would rather that everything sounded balanced and wonderful and,
Right.
and enjoyable to listen to. That's really my preference as well as far as that goes. But
Yeah,
it was a way
to know what goes into that. I wouldn't be able to. We couldn't have an in-depth conversation on that because it's like, okay, that's I know that's a 10-inch sub, that's a 8, that's a, and I know
right.
And I've done was it B2 that has the little 2.5-inch subwoofer. That blew my mind.
Oh yeah. B2 Auto Sounds. They have that little that thing doesn't really make sub bass frequencies, but it's a cute little toy.
But no, we seen them in. There was a guy that was local to us when we were in Florida, and he would take the little Harbor Freight or Lowe's, the little tiny toolboxes, and make like a Bluetooth receiver that used the 2.5-inch subs for basically like a car that doesn't have a radio from factory. And
they sell so many of them little mini toolboxes. My local Harbor Freight has like 500 of them in stock,
and they're all different colors. Like you can get everything.
Yeah.
That's what he would do. He had, he was a 30s, 40s guy, didn't have radios, and a lot of guys don't want to add. They don't want to go through the work of trying to hide something, and they also don't want to go through something that's going to permanently, wire up something permanent in the car. But he would hook it up, and I think you could tell him what rechargeable battery, DeWalt, Milwaukee, or whatever, and he would build it in the little toolbox, and it was like you could just set it in the car, and it kind of looked like it went with the toolkit. And I was like, I seen them, and I'm like, yeah, that. And I did that. I did a Bluetooth stereo when I switched, because I had an Electric Glide Standard that didn't come with a radio, and we did a Road Glide swap, fixed fairing, and I hid a Bluetooth controller in the fairing on it because I didn't have a radio. And I was like, man, if I'd had those, that'd have made that job way freaking easier than trying to make a 6.5 work where a 6-inch speaker used to be. And I went down a whole big wormhole, but then I also didn't know what I was buying. So the sound quality sucked. So it was basically, I never used it other than like parking lot pimping, because anything over like 20 mile an hour, you couldn't hear it anyway.
Yeah, so like with hot rods and stuff, we got other choices. We do a lot of there's a lot of amplifiers that are standalone now that are Bluetooth, and we can hide an amplifier in a car and speakers in stock locations and give them a real factory looking setup. We've done a ton of radios in the glove boxes, but then some people don't. Like my '54 Chevy don't have a glove box. It doesn't have the depth in the glove box anymore because I've got vintage air in there. The big vintage air unit, it takes up that glove box space underneath the dash. So I lost that. Now what I've ended up doing is, so for the longest time, I get caught up in genres like where I care too much about what people think. Like when I was running around with the traditional hot rod guys, they would all be like, "Hey man, you can't have air, you can't have cool things, you're a gold chainer, man. You're like polishing your street rod." They would give me crap about it. And now that I'm older, I don't really give a shit. I'm building the car for myself and my wife. And so I put air conditioning and power steering and power brakes, and I put bucket seats and a center console with cup holders, and I still got that bitch in 34-inch tall rat rod style low car shifter and all that stuff. It still very much looks like a traditional hot rod, except for at the end of the center console underneath the dash is a a touchscreen radio with Android Auto and maps, because I get out of a vehicle. I travel with navigation in my vehicles every day, and I get in my hot rod and I panic. I don't know where I'm at. I want to be able to use Apple CarPlay, and I want to be able to have my Spotify in there. And so yeah, so there's things I have integrated in that I wouldn't have when I was younger. Man, dude, I used to shave the firewalls on all my custom cars. I mean, my cars didn't have power steering, didn't have suspension, didn't have climate control. Like all the comfortable stuff was gone for the sake of cool. And now that I'm getting older, I want the creature comforts. I want to be able to cruise a cool 50s hot rod. I mean, my car's static. I got all QA1 stuff, tubular front suspension, QA1 adjustable shocks all the way around, TCI rear leaf springs. I mean, the car's hammered. It's low. It's very functional low. It cruises down the highway and doesn't bottom out. I can go anywhere I want to go in it. Like I said, did the vintage air, did the Holly Frostbite aluminum radiator, 4-core radiator. We just built a fan trap farm. We've done all kinds of things to try to get it to run cooler when the air conditioning's on, and it just is fighting us tooth and nail. And that's why it's probably going to end up getting yanked and an LS get put in its place, because I'm tired of dealing with the uncertainty of the carburetor and the uncertainty of the timing and all these things that you can nail down completely certainly with an LS. And I've caught a lot of flack for it, and I don't care anymore. The whole, there's no reason why we can't utilize technology to our advantage.
Well, and it's there. And everybody, I gave everybody, or not gave everybody shit, but I always LS swap the world, and the original plan was Ashley's 54 was getting an LS, and whatever I had was going to have a carburetor, just for the basic fact of I wanted whatever vehicle was hers, she could walk out to it, hit the key, it starts up, and it runs, and I don't have to worry about she's on, we're on a road trip and we go up in elevation and now the carburetor's not running good, or
that's a fact.
She
that's
gets
where ultimately,
and maybe she sat in traffic, so the car was a little warm when she shut it off, and she goes back to start it back up again, and it's not cooled down enough, and now it doesn't want to start because fuel's hot. And now I have to worry about, is that car going to start for her, or her getting frustrated that something, that was why the motor got pulled, was because it had an S10 5-speed in it. And if I could get everybody off the road, she could drive the wheels off of it. But the first time somebody pulled up behind her at a stop sign, and she would get anxious, and heaven forbid it stalled, then it's over. Because she would get frustrated, even though it was a messed up clutch setup already. So it was the worst example that I should have taught her on, but that's what it was, and she would prefer an automatic. So it was, okay, I'll put an LS and a 4L60 in your car eventually. And I had a buddy that needed a motor, and I had a motor I had a small block I built that was just sitting there, and I'm like, well, you can have the 230, or you can buy the 235 from me, and I'll put the small block in her, and in her car has an automatic. And I'm like, okay, well, and I'm still contemplating. She was given a carburetor, but I'm still contemplating going to a Sniper or a Jackpot or something, fuel injected unit on top of it.
That's what I was going to do with this 327, but we bore scoped the car. I got the 327 with the car. It was just running poorly. We changed intake, carburetor, distributor, a bunch of stuff, and I never, like I said, I wasn't running a thermostat or anything. And for the longest time, that thing ran as cool as a cucumber. Like I never could have asked any more out of it. So, but when I added all the extras, when we added the AC and power steering and all the drive assembly and all that stuff onto it, that's when we started to it started to run warmer than I'd like to. When the air conditioning is on, well, of course I want to run it with the air conditioning on. If I can't drive it on the 90-degree day unless I want to sweat my butt off. Because when I run the air conditioning on a 90-degree day, it wants to run 220 degrees. So it's too hot for a small block. Well, we bore scoped it, and it looks to be like the motor, whenever it was, because it's a fresh build, but it looks like it's a 60 over build, and it's got a pretty aggressive camshaft and everything else. But I don't think I'm ever going to get it to run any cooler than it is. I don't care what I do. And we've done all kinds of different radiator replacements, different styles of radiators. We've worked with different thermostats. We've worked with different restrictor plates to limit fluid flow. We've done all kinds of things. Run thinner radiators, thicker radiators, different water pumps. There's been a lot of things we've done. We've experimented with timing and fuel. We wanted to make sure there was a little fat rather than lean, because lean conditions will cause the thing to run hot sometimes. It's just all these things, and we tried messing with all of them, and nothing seems to work. So I've been frustrated because we have been in a spell of 2 months straight of 90+ degree weather. So my damn car has been sitting here, and I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go out and sweat my ass off just to go for a ride. I'll do that at night every once in a while, or I'm excited for the fact that hopefully here in a week or two it'll be 80 degrees and cooler. So I can get out and really enjoy it. I mean, the heat works great, so I can drive it till the weather changes. But I all these beautiful, really hot days, I've not been able to drive it anymore.
Yeah, neither
it's
one of
aggravating
our
the
cars
crap
have
out of
AC.
me. What's that?
I said neither one of our cars have AC. The Caddy don't even have AC.
Yeah, I'm fat. And,
me too.
Me
too. And honestly speaking, the Cadillac would have AC if the previous the kid that started the project broke the AC box and threw the box away. And it's not like you could just.
You don't need that box. Put a vintage air in it.
They don't make one.
They don't have to make one. They didn't make one for my car either.
No, they don't make one for that shallow of a dash. That's the problem.
Oh yes, they do. They definitely do.
They don't. They don't.
Have you tried one of the electric?
I tried to have a custom built system for it, and it without it sticking out the bottom of the dash and making it look like a hunk of junk. There's not. We are working on that same company down in Ocala. We are working on a way of repackaging, because the all-in-one units. Because I want to use the vents. I don't want to have vents down there and also vents in the dash. So I want to use the vents.
Of course.
So he is trying to work on, instead of it being packaged in like a rectangle or like a skinny rectangle, he's trying to work on one that will fit basically behind the whole dash, or that, the 2/3 of that dash, instead of stacking everything like a puzzle, letting it stretch itself out. So we're still working on it, but currently no AC, and her car doesn't have AC. It just has 2 windows at 60 mile an hour. But so I understand the whole it's too hot to drive shit. But and my motor, it's a fresh build. It's nothing special. It's got a big cam, but it's a stock bore 350. We rerung it. I was putting it in my Model A with a tunnel ram, so I built it to sound good, and it'll eventually make it in her car. It's still down in Florida. The focus has been the Cadillac. But where can everybody find Modified Auto Sound?
Well, you can find us at Modified Auto Sound on Facebook, of course, if you want to check out our current work and projects and things that are going on from day to day. We are located at 241 East Gate Plaza in East Alton, Illinois. That's Eastgate Plaza, East Alton, Illinois. And like I said, we're about, I don't know, I would say maybe 15 to 20 minutes away from downtown St. Louis. We tell everybody that we have all the conveniences of St. Louis with none of the murder. We're on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River, so we're just a stone throw away.
Okay.
We do all your major work here: window tinting, remote starts, alarms. All your truck and Jeep accessories, lighting, pretty much anything you can think of to accessorize or to add onto a vehicle, we take care of here. And we work pretty close with some other shops that do other things like painting and suspension and stuff like that. We work closely with a network of shops that we trust. So yeah, we can be found there. Feel free to reach out. My name's Shawn. If you guys want to give us a like or a follow on the Facebook page, we would really, really appreciate it. It's been a great opportunity, man. Time flies.
Hey, man, yeah, we've been recording for almost 3 hours. But all that information will be down in the show notes below. Before we get out of here, make sure you go check out PsychoFab on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure you check out Throttle Addict. Use the code word Hot Rod. You can save 50% off. Also, Sinister Stitch on Facebook. And if you want to check out information on the Get Out and Drive Your Shit tour, there's a Facebook event and also GOADYS Facebook group. If you want to come on board and help us support, you can reach us at hotrodhangout.com. Shoot us a message while you're there. Check out some merch. Till next time, guys, get out and drive your shit. Later.